Oh, ba-bam!
Yeah. That Mac Miller vibe. Let's go. I wake up with the intent to make the day my bitch, and I don't need it. You talking, so just shut your lips. Cause I'ma make it. Yeah, I'ma make it. I'ma make it. I'ma make it. Lord have mercy, I'ma make it. Yeah, I hear the haters talking, but I don't ever listen. Keep 100 yards on distance. If you always steady bitching, don't need negativity around me. I've already risen past the bullshit animosity, and now I'm thinking different. Look, I don't know why you've been thinking broke, cause when you limit yourself, then you never know what your potential is or your room for growth. Use your brain, stop being a hoe. Sick of people acting so basic. Sick of brainless racist faces, always with the hatred. Guess it's never changing. What is this, the Matrix? This is why I'm blazing. This is how I face it, bitch. Wait, what? What am I doing? Created a movement, won't ruin what you are pursuing. But I wake up every morning, never yawning, cause I wake up with the intent to make the day my bitch, and I don't need it. You talking, so just shut your lips. Cause I'ma make it. Yeah, I'ma make it. I'ma make it. I'ma make it. Lord have mercy, I'ma make it. I wake up with the intent to make the day my bitch, and I don't need it. You talking, so just shut your lips. I'ma make it. Yeah, I'ma make it. I'ma make it. I'ma make it. Lord have mercy, I'ma make it. This shit is crazy, right? Everybody hating on my life.
This shit is crazy, right?
Right? Let's talk about it. 6ix9ine. It's crazy out there. Crazy culture we're in nowadays.
Isaac said, fuck it, let's get right into 6ix9ine. Hold on, before we talk about 6ix9ine, we were talking about this in pre-production. I am here with my very good friend, host of nationally syndicated radio show In the Weeds, Joe Smith. How are you, sir? Taking that attitude adjustment dab?
That's what we do.
How's Vermont been?
I feel like I should do my face. Vermont's great, man. Dude, actually, Vermont's wonderful, man. It's actually been a great summer, I think. There's been a lot of summers that haven't felt this good. It's been, it was a slow start, but I think generally we've had a few good months of great weather, man. To get outside, hit the rivers, hit the waterfalls. This COVID thing kind of is awkward, but we don't really feel it here in Vermont, man. When we go take our trips to like Mass and Maine and all around, and we really get what the rest of the country's saying. But we have some of the lowest numbers of COVID. People are just, the only thing is when you go to a restaurant, you can't sit down. You know what I mean? That was kind of the weirdest thing. And other than that, dude, I mean, cannabis is great. Like I said, the water has been great. It's just been a weird summer, but I can't complain. Can't complain at all. We've had no fires like we see out west, which is crazy. We've had no crazy weather. I mean, we've had a couple, storms, but other than that, man, I'm not complaining. Hopefully, Halloween will come here with a vengeance, and we can get back into everybody being outside and getting back to what the so-called new normal will be. I hope so. Who knows, man?
Dude, it's been a crazy summer for sure, but I think it's one of those like growing times, right? Like we have to kind of take a step back to be able to launch forward type of thing. And it's definitely caused a bunch of challenges in the business. It's definitely caused a bunch of challenges just by not being able to go anywhere. So like it's just increase of anxiety and everything like that, and not being around people. It's like so hard to not be around people, man.
Well, now when you talk about the music industry, right? I mean, what's unique about what we're doing is, and what's great about us is we're both cannabis industry guys, right? And I'm purposely sitting in my home studio right now just because I'm excited to be talking to somebody from the music industry again. You know what I mean? So when we talk about industries, right? Like, dude, two totally different industries, right? As a DJ, as a sound guy, as an event specialist, I do a lot of events. I own companies, and that's what we do: designs, events, all that kind of stuff, right? There's nothing going on. I mean, weddings are, people still get married, but nothing's going on. And we're seeing some of these, these venues, and we're seeing some of these production companies that are closing down just because, again, how do you survive? You know what I mean? Everybody has to go get a job now. But on the flip note, let's talk about the cannabis industry, right? The cannabis industry is out of control. We're breaking records every month in almost every state where we sell cannabis, right? It's been considered an essential product. You know what I mean? It's an essential drug, so we get to enjoy it, right? And what you said is the best thing. Everybody's pent up. Everybody's at home. Everybody is, you either meet your other, your partner, your kids. I mean, I love my family. I've had no problem with this, but I'm very glad school's back in session. But not for me, but more for the social thing, the kids. I mean,
Right.
for me, it's been kind of nice. It's been catch up. We go out. The summer's been quiet, like I was saying. Work on the house, work on some of these projects, especially these industry projects, because, like we just said, the industry is going crazy, right?
Yep.
But now, like it's kind of back to normal. You know what I mean? It's work is opening back up for most people. The kids going back to school really kind of put a stamp on, oh fuck, summer's over, right? I mean, that's usually it for me. And then the next big thing is Halloween, right? So yeah, man, it's been interesting. It's been a fast summer though. There's been so much going on. And like we said, within the industry, when there really hasn't been anything going on, which is amazing. I mean, we haven't been able to go to events, we haven't been able to do anything. But then again, I think the summer feels like it went by twice as fast as last summer when we were at 2 events every weekend, you know what I mean, or a 4-day stretch at a NECAN or whatever we were doing, you know what I mean, running all over state to state. I'm afraid to go to Mass right now with Vermont plates, you know what I mean. They're gonna, hey, what are you doing here?
Yeah, you gotta quarantine for 14 days.
Yeah, right? I'm like, man, I just want to go home and go to bed, right?
Right.
But I mean, it's crazy, and that's been the biggest thing, like working for companies this summer that require travel, right, or meetings, or as you have an awesome CBD company, right? You have vending locations, but we also have to do sales, right? Like nobody realizes the sales end of it probably better than us, because we're on the phone 5-6 hours a day. You're constantly talking to people, and you gotta go set things up, right? So like for me, I'm in the middle of bumfuck Vermont, right? Like I'm a Boston native. I grew up in the area. That's my hometown. So for me, it's different because my family's there. You know what I mean? I go down there. I see everybody. We go to Maine. We go to New York. We go down and see our buddies all over the state. And we were working on a project this summer, which was really made it interesting because we're going into New York City when it's nobody's out. You know what I mean? And Central Station is being occupied, right? And then we're going down trying to make CBD sales with Green Angel CBD, right? Shouts out to those guys. We love those guys. John D, that whole crew. If you guys know, you know. If you don't know, then you need to know, right? So one of the biggest hemp busts in East Coast history. I don't know if it still stands for one of the biggest ones, but he had 107 pounds. I mean, it was a big one, you know what I mean? And it was a big story, and there's a big lawsuit coming out of it. So a huge shout out to those guys and for fighting the fight, because most people would just take it and would have disappeared, but they didn't, but going down there and seeing that literally Central Square is being occupied, and like at that point in time I didn't even realize that was happening because Seattle was occupied, and like half my summer's been on this live streams and and in media, right? Like being a media guy, how disappointed can we be at media right now? You know what I mean? Like for me, it's
So
just
polarizing.
Dude, it's crazy, the media thing, because we don't know, right? Who's lying to us, who's talking to us, who's being real with us. And the places that you thought were the right places that you're dealing with are not, you know what I mean? So how disappointed left and right, you know what I mean? Here we go. I'm trying to find and share our
I was like, I know I hear the echo in the background. I was just thinking on when I started the show and like the intro was playing, literally 3 seconds before it ended. Like it was literally saying like this shit is crazy, right? And I was like just clicking over, like, all right, I'm back. Like I have it timed so perfect to like share it to all the groups, share it to my page with a post, and then start a live watch party. So that way I have like so many different sources going and whatnot.
Well, make it shareable, man. I see it, but I can't share it. So I'm trying to do the watch party thing, invite everybody. So
that's really odd.
Guys, if I invited you and I'm gonna piss you off, I don't care. Just join us and have some fun.
Right.
But really, though, I mean, what's gone on in the world this summer has been really and different for people in every aspect of the country. Because think about if you were in Seattle this summer, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
We're here in Boston where we didn't, we've seen marches, we've seen great things happening, but we haven't seen anything on a level of that nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been, the 2020 memes. I love them because it doesn't get any better than that. Because it's like, what the fuck's going to happen this month? You know what I mean? We have murder hornets. We have all these things going on, and now we have fires. And it just seems like it's like once we catch a breath, something drastically happens somewhere else, right? And now kids are back to school. So again, if you believe in the mask, if you believe in the COVID, if it's something that we could talk about that all day long. People are back to work, people are back to school, and then the thing I laugh about is we're gonna have flu season in a minute. So now what happens, right? So I don't know, man. I'm just trying to stay busy. I've tried to avoid a lot of the melodrama going on. Put my nose to the grind and just build on and work on companies. We have a lot of projects going on. I'm involved in a lot of cool, unique opportunities. We're working with a lot of great individuals, so we have a lot of things coming up, and then we're trying to build this one thing that I've been working on for a couple of years now, and we're coming down to the stretch. So basically with 24/7 cannabis network, you know what I mean? So like this show and our show and all the shows that are supporting the cannabis world can have a home, an avenue of another platform that pushes to multiple platforms and actually pay the program providers, right? So content producers,
kind of like a Patreon type thing.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you know me, you know I've been in radio for about 13 years now, right? We started off with the first like live DJ radio shows on air, right? So 13 years ago, before any Apple or Spotify or any of these streaming services, or even the real legit usage of a smartphone, we were on air as DJs, using it literally as a marketing ploy on Friday night to go in and just throw down 4 hours of live sets with as many guests as we can get into the studio. And over the years, we just kept going. It kept going. There was a couple breaks here and there where we kind of get kicked off of air for swearing and pushing the rules a little bit. But yeah, it's a great show. And then that's what got us to In the Weeds. You know what I mean? The In the Weeds story is another great, unique story because of just the stigmas, the legalities behind it. So, a lot of people probably wonder why don't we hear cannabis radio shows? You know what I mean? Why doesn't anybody talk about it? Like, why is nobody having this discussion? And 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm sure Adam, you can agree with me, because you guys kind of we all kind of started here in this industry around the same time, and we all support each other. It was great because we all provided a unique aspect to what we were doing that was vastly different. So this and being the way the community was 2 years ago, we had support for each other, right? But for us, we took a different avenue, and the only reason why we really got on air is because I was there. You know what I mean? And I was just I would sit in a room with the smartest cannabis people I knew, right? And everybody had a different story. Everybody had a different way. Everybody had a different idea. There was gray areas, when we talk about legalities or how to grow or what to do. So I kept sitting here being like, how can we educate people, right? And especially with the stigmas. So that's when we decided to see if I could do that. And like literally it was met with nothing but rejections at first. You know what I mean? Nobody wanted to touch it, and everybody thought I was crazy. And then Vermont went and got to be medically legal, right? So they get their medical side going. And that was 2 years ago now. Or not their medical side, but their rec side. There's no system here. It's just like, hey, you can have an ounce legally in your house. We won't kick your door in, and you don't smoke outside. And if you have under an ounce in your car, we're kind of cool. You know what I mean? And other than that, it was just like, and when those laws came out, everybody was like, yay, weed, I can go smoke on the street and we can do this and that. It was like, no, you know what I mean? So, and it's same thing in Mass, right? Yeah, exactly. So depending on where you're at, Mass is another great example. Worcester, right? We go to Worcester, we do the Harvest Cup. Shout out to the Harvest Cup guys. Hey. Love you guys. When we're down there with Jen and doing that whole thing, right? We were smoking weed on the sidewalk, right? The cops were driving by, literally beeping and waving, like I think they were as excited as we were, right? They're like, "Fuck, I'm gonna bust these guys! No more paper, no more paperwork. Great, smoke on us, right?" But you go to Boston and no, you know what I mean? We go to Nikan and it's like, fuck, you guys can't even have seeds in this place. Get the fuck out. You know,
Yeah,
you guys
that's
are smoking
true.
outside. You're done. Get out. You know, it was a different thing. But and then we talk about it being in the same state, right?
I
You know,
had fun
Vermont
at
was
Nican with that because like we were in Boston at the Heinz Convention Center and the security guards, he did not want to throw us out. Like he's like, bro, I'm just doing my job. I'm like, bro, just come over here and take a hit. Like come over here, take a hit. Fuck your job. Your job ain't that serious. And I just kept like I would like walk away and then walk
Yep.
back in a circle and then walk away and walk back in a circle. And then the ambulance showed up and I was like, oh, never mind. All right, peace. And then I come out just like
right.
I'm like, hey, bro. Guess I didn't need to hang on the sidewalk.
So I have two questions for the both of you.
Whoa, where did that come from?
The first question of those being, how do you think that the age of not only social media, but also the very thriving impact of the internet has affected the cannabis industry in terms of growing it?
Oh my God. Well, for me, I am the internet guy. I'm that guy. You know what I mean? I'm the Facebook whore. I'm that guy, right? I mean, a lot of us have to be what we're doing. I think I mean, dude, I can't say enough about what the internet's done. Think about it 5 years ago, trying to go find a bag of weed or go do anything that's cannabis related before the internet became an open platform to be able to be used for cannabis relations. I mean, even still, do we fight stigmas and we fight Facebook and we're fighting, Weed Maps is always in a battle and all these companies are still in battles on the internet. But think about what it has given us. You know what I mean? And the best way I'll say it is, obviously we've seen the growth of it. So we're here, we're doing the shows. I mean, like you guys can literally go on find weed and literally probably get it ordered and delivered to you in most states, right? So that's all through the internet. So, but what I want to talk about, and that's an awesome question, is the impact it made through COVID, right? Because
that was my next question.
Oh man, when we talk about it being an essential, when it went to being an essential, whatever you want to call it, medicine in these states, right? And with the lockdown happening, I think what you've seen in the lockdown, and then for me, and I'll have this conversation a lot because I think, let's just talk about marketing for a second. If you're in marketing and you're a website guy and you're looking at all these platforms, like if you were to talk to somebody, you're trying to get away from the websites, you're trying to get away and use your social marketing, right? And this is how you generate numbers, and you're trying to work your edge rank, and you're trying to play the number game, and if you do it organically, you get reaches, right? And I'm sure Adam will agree to this. And we follow a lot of our shows and our friends, and we support people. You know what I mean? And we watch numbers, right? And the biggest thing that kills me is, and I'm sure people can attest to this, is for us. When we were doing our radio show and to get numbers of 1 million listeners between streaming and radio and all the little devices on IRCs reporting to us 1 million plus. Our biggest show was 2.5 million people, and here we are in middle of Vermont at a little community-based radio station, and we're hitting these numbers. Now, what we were talking about before was, again, that was the first and only radio show that was cannabis-based in the nation at that point in time, because it technically is a felony to promote a Class 1 Schedule 1 substance on live radio, on FCC airwaves. We got to remember the government owns everything, right? But to get back to your point on the internet thing, just think about where our patients would be. Let's just talk about the cannabis industry right now with the curbside ordering, right? The ability to go online and be, as a patient, make an order. Like, dude, you're ordering like fucking cannabis, like pizza on the internet. Like, Domino's just started doing this years ago, right?
Yeah, like hey Siri, I need an ounce of that Blue Dream.
Yes, exactly. You know what I mean? I get updates of dispensaries and prices and what their products are to my phone. You know what I mean? I think the biggest thing is our phone, because everybody has it, right? But now with the way COVID hit us, everything flipped again. You know what I mean? So now the website's the important thing to have. The streaming base is the platform, like what we're doing right here, right now, is the important thing to have. We've seen the issues with Zoom and all these stream stations, because like for us, we're not a podcaster, right? We were doing a live radio show at a studio that got shut down. because of COVID, right? So think about how many people and not only us in radio but in media, like the late night shows, the news shows, right? I mean, how many months now have we seen, Conan O'Brien in his underwear in his house doing a show? You know what I mean?
So you guys got your views like sliced and cut, pretty much.
Well,
Like so.
Well, for us, yes. I mean, because obviously, we lost a big output of where our show was going. You know what I mean? And then we had the chance of getting syndicated, but again, and you'll hear this across the industry, like there's opportunities out there, but then there's no work, so people are getting fired, right? So I have the opportunity to go get syndicated on 240 channels, but the lady who does the syndication and the training and all that stuff at our radio station, it got fired. You know what I mean? So there's literally like two people there, and for me to do it it's almost impossible for us to do it unless we push it to another platform. Now, with all this happening, and I don't want to throw a plug down there or nothing, but this is why we developed this 24/7 idea, because it just brings in 5 different ways of marketing, branding, payments, and not only that, but direct to person marketing, right? So that's what's great about the website now, because you can go pick and find what you want in your area, in your style. You can go support our radio show. You can go support Adam's radio show. You can go support Rick Naya and whoever else is out there doing their shows, right? And being somebody in the industry that loves our industry, I suggest we all do, because we're all trying to teach and educate in a different way. You know what I mean? Our show is an educational show. Like we are pretty serious and we're strict, and we have doctors and lawyers and guests that come on and we talk about cultures and educate, right? But there's a lot of awesome shows out there that just play music. There's a lot of shows out there that just, we just talk about whatever we want. For me, this is a little awkward. I'm sorry if I'm talking a lot, guys, but I've eaten a lot of edibles before the show.
It's making it awesome. I'm just over here. I'm like, Joe is not used. I was just on the opposite side of this, right? I was on somebody else's podcast and I listened back, and I would go on like 5 to 7 minute rants, but like good information. It just was like, I'm not used to me being interviewed so much as the other way around. So it's like, then you get a chance to like be like, I know shit, like like people,
So I have another question that pertains to the industry.
Well,
but
before you go to that, I want to answer that first question. So for me, social media has played a key role in everything going on with cannabis, especially the legalization, because the more people see it, the less stigmatized it is. And people share it like crazy, whether you like it or not. It's probably going to be on your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, somewhere in your life, on the news. Like we had a minute and a half long news article at 6:15, 7:15, 8:15, 9:15, 10:15, 11:15, midnight, like 6:15 again in the morning, 7:15, 8:15, 9:15, like all these primetime slots, a minute and a half, and a minute of that was straight our weed fields, a bunch of weed plants. And it is so epic because it's Fox News. Like a majority of the people that watch that have probably never seen cannabis in that kind of capacity.
Way.
Yeah, 130 plants, and that's not even a lot of plants, really. Like that's nothing, but it looks like a lot more. But the way they filmed it, which was really cool, and so it's like, for them that's got to be shocking. So that helps end the stigma, and then you have people like us out there with our kiosks educating people through social media, through our kiosks, about how cannabis isn't bad, how it's helping people do this, XYZ, this animal do this, this child with their ADD, all these different things that it can help. And it's allowed to have so much more exposure for what cannabis can actually do, and exposure always equals less stigma.
Yeah.
So back to that exposure aspect, and also to tie in with that whole entire COVID situation and the industry aspect itself, and almost the way that, because I deal with the fashion industry and the entertainment industry, and they're very monopolized by like the top creators and the top producers. Is that a potential threat moving on into years if this continues to be the new normal, that it could be monopolized and almost become like a government-based program because they're starting to push it more?
That's an interesting question. So I probably have a couple different viewpoints and answers on that, because that's a huge question, right? So I think Adam nailed it on the head. Even extended, like, just to be able to use a video conferencing, chatting. Like if our I have a kid in school, right? I have an 8-year-old. So if his school shuts down tomorrow, guess what? They're going to video. Like, they have a backup
Mhm.
plan. It's there. We've already done it. It's installed, right?
Mm.
So what I believe. So there's two parts to this question. Yes and no. Right. The monopolies will happen when all the services are being owned by one company, right? Where we see like our money services. So like our financial services, a lot of it's Stripe, and the credit card services are all Square and Stripe, and it's all Venmo. All these people are owned by the
Mm.
same company at the end of the day. Now, does that mean there's bigger monopolies that are taking over things? Yes and no, because now under that next stage below it, though, when it comes to production, anybody can produce anything we want right now, right? I'm literally in my studio right now with a phone and my laptop, and we're doing a show, right? I can do a green screens, I can do all the fun stuff too, you know what I mean?
Mm.
But what it does is it allows more people like us to reach that. So it's like the podcast, you see the podcast world blew up when podcasts started going, right? Now this is the next step. We have video, right? People don't have to go to work. Technically, they can work from home. Like, it's almost more convenient to work from home and have a couple of video conferences throughout your day, or as an employer, let them stay home. I don't have to rent an office. I don't, like, there's a lot of great savings in using this platform. So I think in the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot more of what this new norm brings to us is the fact that we don't have to show up in all these places, right? The fact that we will be able to have more deliveries of said items, alcohol, and cannabis, right? Like, cannabis was on one of the, on really a fast forward pace to be on a deliverable thing anyways, and we're seeing states authorize it right as COVID was hitting. But once COVID hit, you had two options, and then you have patients. So what was great about that, again, being considered essential and being put on a level as a pharmaceutical drug, really helped our industry. Again, breaking records. Now, if you're from the fashion industry, right, and you're from the entertainment industry, right, you're going to see the same thing me and Adam were talking about earlier between us. You know what I mean? We're on social media and we're doing radio shows in the cannabis industry that are absolutely taking off, right? Everybody's coming in. But now, is that good or bad? You want to talk numbers? Yeah. Are we hitting crazy numbers? No. Why? Because there's 18 of our shows all day long, right? What time?
And social media is limiting us. Once things pop up that say cannabis or anything like
Yeah.
that, CBD is scrolling across the banner of my show the whole time. Like, they see
Yeah.
that, they're like, flag.
Well, you get blocked, right? But then again, like, if you're a cannabis business owner, you can't boost any of your post, right? You can't.
Nope.
There's a lot of things that you get restricted on as using social media bases, right? And
Mhm.
that's across the board. And we're seeing more and more restrictions happen, and then they come and they go. They come and they go. We get it all the time on our show. I have cannabis leaves on my page, but we're a community based radio show, so we're all community based organizations. We're all community based, right? The Oh shit! I lost my train of thought. Edibles, and people are talking. Hi guys. I guess I was gonna say, with the industry being what you're talking about, in 5 years, I think you're gonna see a lot of it's gonna be mail order. It's gonna be when legalization happens. This is gonna be a huge year, guys. So let's not forget. In 12 months from now, this whole industry that we have established right now could look dramatically different, right? Because we could have federal legalization.
Mhm.
We have a bunch of candidates running for multiple positions throughout politics, right? Right up to the presidency. So it really is a matter of, do you guys want to go out and vote, and who we're going to vote for? Because in the next 6 months, that could change everything, right? We have a bill going into the Senate next week, which I'm sure it's going to get passed and go to the Senate. But as we all know, I mean, a lot of us are anxious for this bill that's the MORE Act, right? That's going into Congress. They're voting on it next week. I believe it is next week, right? It's in less than a week. Anyways, if it gets voted through, which I anticipate to, because literally everybody underneath Mitch McConnell is bipartisan and they want to see cannabis being pushed through. But this is where our votes really count, right? We're the people that vote those guys in, whether we like to say it or not. You know what I mean? Then it goes to Mitch McConnell, right? So there's a lot of things that I believe need to change in politics. 30 years in politics is, to me, something that should not happen in our country, especially when we
Hell
have
no.
generations and technologies and systems that, as we've all seen, it changes rapidly, right? So we are very what do I say? We're a country that likes to push things with a regime that is not open for new stuff. You know what I mean? So how do you function that in that kind of aspect? But now, if we can get past the federal legalization or decriminalization or rescheduling, whatever we can get out of this deal, I hope they reschedule it, and then we can do so many better things with that, and then decriminalize it so we can get some people. Social equity is really where we were kind of fucking it up everywhere. Um, we shouldn't, in mass, and all these states are illegal. We shouldn't have people making millions of dollars while we still have people in jail for convictions of this, right? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. That's why I hope will change. But like I said, in a year from now, we were just talking about this the other day with our lawyers, right? It could be a drastically different approach because it could be federally governed, it could be state issued, right? And then within
So
states, we already see states doing completely different things all over the board, right? Where are you located, man?
Massachusetts.
He's in the same city as I am.
Nice.
So one aspect regarding the entire federal regulation is it a possible thing that I only see the aspect of something that could have so much potential to help people,
Mhm.
but seeing it like become federally legalized and categorized as a pharmaceutical drug almost makes me think that it's either going to get like long term, talking like 10 plus or even more than that, they're going to like reverse it and switch it to make people not want to use it, or they're going to.
I mean,
They're already doing that. So
They're
what they're
doing it,
doing
right, we're already there.
instead is
Um,
they actually have a product called Epidiolex, and Epidiolex is CBD isolate with a bunch of nasty, terrible fillers: blue number
Mhm.
4, red number 5, some other like sugar supplement. I don't know what the fuck is in there. There's so much bad stuff,
Yeah.
and it's
An
isolate.
Amazon product.
Basically, and it's isolate. So isolate is already inferior, by
Yeah.
itself. So it's just a completely inferior product to anything I've ever seen. It's awful.
I mean, no, it literally is it's a joke. Yeah, it is an isolate of CBD with a bunch of additives to it that allow them to sell to you legally, right? And they've opened up the medical applications for it as well to a couple more conditions now, right? So right now we have two of these federally legal synthetic versions of stuff, right? And we've seen a couple issues with synthetic cannabis. Spice, right? And this shit's killing people, right? The stuff that they use for sprays, people are getting sick and stuff. We've had some vape card issues, right?
Oh
Let's
my
talk about
god,
that. You know
don't get
what
me started on vape carts, bro.
What is your opinion on that?
I
I
think that
would very
I
much like
think
to
that
know.
maybe I gotta test it to see if PAX is actually as safe as they say they are.
Yeah.
I can't speak on PAX, but I don't think there's any safe cartridges on the market. Again, I can't
No.
speak on PAX, but this is why, right? They're all testing the oil that goes in for heavy metals and pesticides, and then they're testing once it goes into the cartridge, they let it sit for a year, and then they test it, but they never heat it up and test the vapor.
Right.
That's
They
what's
don't fire
important.
it.
I did that. I spent an hour literally like I bought a little pump for a fish tank, put it on a hose stuffed with organic cotton. I tested the organic cotton for pesticides and heavy metals, and then like alone with nothing in it, and then I tested it with the vapor in it, and the vapor came back with ridiculously high lead.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is that um cannabis oil, for some reason, it really just leaches everything. It just pulls fucking everything. It's like
What's
that. If you don't,
oil? It's an oil, right?
true, yeah. If you put it on the wrong label, it's gonna
Mhm.
just wipe off your label completely. Which you couldn't even like wipe it off if you try, but the oil just takes it off easy.
So you would say that the dab carts are worse than the modern day vapes for like e-cigarettes?
Well, they're the same, in my opinion.
Yes.
Adam made 100% great points, and the only thing I'd add to that is, yeah, okay. So as a chef and as an, let's let's take just basic math, real quick in our heads, right? Temperatures. Who's ever decarbed weed before? I have. Have you? Right. So you decarbon 180 to 250, 240, right? Everybody does a little different. I like it lower because I like to keep cannabinoids. Cannabinoids start to die off at 180, but THCA doesn't transfer over to THC till about 220, 230, right? So you got to play that game, right? Um, but with oil, right? So let's talk about oil. So as a chef or as anybody would know, oil has what we call a smoke point, right? A burn point.
Mm,
Most of these burn points aren't as high as you really think they are, right? You know, most of these burn points are going to be a couple hundred degrees max. You know what I mean? They're going to start burning at 180 and they're going to start going from there. So it depends on the quality, the viscosity, where you're pulling these oils from. You're going to have different burn points. Now, if you're a car smoker, and I'm just going to point this out, I do have one in front of me right now. How many people have their car cranked right now? Everybody I know has it on the highest setting. Nobody puts at the lowest setting. You know, literally what you're doing is giving, 4, 5, 600 degrees through a metal conductor into oil at a very fast rate. So now that oil is going to break down. It's going to do different things in your tubes. It gets very hot. And now what you're smoking is technically toxins, right? And those are the metals. Now with the vape card issue, and this is one thing that people didn't talk enough about is, and Adam nailed it again right in the head. Awesome, Adam. Thank you. But when you fire these things and they have a coil, right? Some of these things, they've gone without the coil. I have a little, I got shit everywhere, guys. Sorry. You get like the little dab carts with the coils in them, right? Once those coils heat up, as we all know, the the little physics of that metal changes. It becomes bendable, it becomes pliable. Things are literally coming off the metals. Have you ever seen metal burn that hasn't sparked or ignited something off of it? And now when you take these carts and they're using really shitty metal, they're coming out of China, guys. They're making these things for pennies on the fucking dollar, right?
China.
Right. Now let's talk about China's metal really quick. As an automotive guy, right? China cannot make steel, so they have to bring everything in and ship it in and melt it down to make everything that they make is all recycled metals, right? So, one of the craziest stories, and then you can research this. Look at the Olympics when they had the Olympics in Seoul, right? It was what was it? What the fuck were the Olympics? Anyways, they built all China. They built all, they built like all these buildings for the Olympics out of metals that literally rotted out. Dude, the buildings aren't even standing anymore because the quality of the metal is so poor there. Guys, think about foreign cars. Their bodies rot out before the engines even do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just they cannot make good metal there. And when they bring it in, they're bringing in metal that has already rust and it's a cancer, right? So, a lot of these metals are not refined to really high standards. That's why when you look at German metals, it's all different because they actually can make metal there, right? They have the little fossil fuels to do this, right? They don't have them in China. So every time you light this coil, and you are 100% right, Adam, they would test the oil going into it. The oil's great, guys. The oil's actually really good. Most of these cases, but the minute you light it and you ignite it and you get it to a certain temperature, that's going to change everything. You're going to start smoking toxins. And the other problem I had was when people make these things, they don't know how to vac off the gases properly. So the cheaper the cart you got, the more people love them because they're like, oh man, this is kicking me right between the eyes every time I take a hit. And I'm like, dude, that's not weed. That's like that's the ethanol that the guy didn't. Yeah, the butane, the ethanol, the whatever the process was, even CO2 at some point, you guys have to off gas it. There's ways of doing it. It takes time.
Well,
People
even CO2 uses ethanol to get it out of there.
People don't understand that, right? So until you understand the process, right? And then my biggest problem with carts, though, is they're not medically suited for anybody who has a medical condition. To me, I mean, this is just straight THC. It's just got, it's got maybe 15 cannabinoids left in it by the time it's in your pen, but it's designed to get you fucked up. So it's kind of like drinking vodka because you broke your toe. It's going to make it feel better, but it doesn't do a fucking thing to help your toe, right? But when we're talking about patients and we talk about the potential of cannabis, right? Cannabinoids, your endocannabinoid systems, your entourage effects, well, how literally all the cannabinoids can work together to help you fix yourself. Without the use of medication, without the use of opioids, without the use of all these things, there's a huge benefit there. And like what Adam was saying earlier about the products, even from Epidiolex, it's a shit product, right? And we're realizing through science, and we've been preaching this for a long time. Broad spectrum oils, full spectrum oils. A lot of it's misrepresented. A lot of it's misused. A lot of it's not what you think. A lot of it just gets because there's no system to
Regulation.
establish to regulate, right? So it's
Quality
still the wild,
control.
wild west. But one company is legal and the other company isn't, right? And then we see. Sorry, you can cut me off, man. I'm just rambling.
Switch the topic, and I hate to interrupt you because coming from a younger generation, like I remember, not so much this year, but like last year and the year before that, like my friends were going through dab carts like that, and especially like because I have friends that like sell vapes to people, and it's the amount of people that like do it is insane, and how fast, like because there'll be there's this thing, like I swear to God, because I have like I used to like vape a lot, and I don't really anymore. It's like very frequently, not frequently, infrequently. Um, but it's crazy to see when I started. It was like there's like a jewel and a fix, and within the time, and I started like when I graduated high school. There was the jewel, then the fix, Soaring Airs, Soaring Edge, Soaring Edges. I think between like the last 2 years, there's been at least like 10 to 15 different like devices.
Mhm. Well, I mean,
And it,
you start off with the e-carts, right? So
mm,
here's where the biggest problem with carts started for me. So cigarette carts, right? Remember they were loaded with glycol, right? Glycol gives you popcorn lungs. So very quickly in a regulated industry, they realized that this shit's fucking killing people, right? We can't use it. So they had this whole industry of e-carts when they first came out based with the glycol product. So they had to dump it, right? Where it's there. They made it. Where do you think it's gonna go? So when the cannabis market started, a lot of that shit got dumped in the cannabis market. So the first few years of cartridges were very poor quality. And like if you ever follow cartridges, I mean, some people again, man, the problem with the industry is people don't know. They don't care.
At
You know
all.
what I mean? They just want to get fucking stoned. Some people just want to get stoned. They don't want to hear our pitch. They don't want to hear us talk about health. They really don't.
yeah,
Get that fucking cart, go home and get fucked up because they know it makes them feel better. But um,
not
again, they don't.
long term.
Right. And so again, now we have people, and the problem with carts too, and this is where it gets fucked up. It's like you really have to trust people, right? And this is where it gets fucked up because I mean we've had dispensaries do this. You know what I mean? When you get a moldy product, you get a bad product, you get a product that you use tons of chemicals in to just get the, you could taste the shit because you didn't do it right. Then you got to process it, right? The moldy weed gets processed by a lot of the dispensaries guys in the fucking cart into edibles, into shit that we've had people get sick over. That's not something that you as a patient should ever do. That's why I think this for a patient's a joke. But give them a fresh pressed dab that came off the plant, 7 days ago, and you're doing a real live rosin fresh press, like the right way that not a resin or you know what I mean. Like you don't let the plant dry, right? That process, if you do it right and you run the temperatures right and you do it all beautifully and right, you're gonna have 600 cannabinoids that are gonna hit you like a fucking shit ton of bricks. I got patients that were on opioids and they've tried to come into the cannabis market and medicate and they can't unless they're doing like 5,000 milligrams of something a day. Which, if let's talk about it. How much is 100 milligram candy bar go for? You know what I mean? What's the retail on 5,000 milligrams of CBD or THC that you need to kind of help yourself throughout the day? Like, will it help you? Yes. This is where I think the industry gets the worst, issues is because everybody go to Amazon and buy a 90 milligram CBD bottle, right, for $80. They'll get it in the mail. And like, now if we really break that 90 milligram bottle down and how much CBD is actually in it, then we look at what you should be taking for a daily dosage. Dude, you need to drink like 4 or 5 of those bottles a day for some people, right?
Mm.
If you're on cancer, you're using FICO or RSO, dude. That just think about what that contains. That's a pound or 2 pounds of high quality bud brought down into basically a 3-month supply of medication for somebody. Now that shit will
Mhm.
fuck you up. Oh yeah, they'll send you for a loop.
Yep.
Make sure you have somebody around when you're in that stage of repairing yourself, but the shit works. You know what I mean? When you get all these cannabinoids working together, and right now the CBD is what Ray's talking about. You know what I mean? The CBD bubble kills me because I'm a restaurateur, I'm a business guy. It's a bubble. You know what I mean? There's so many more cannabinoids inside this plant that are way more beneficial for you than CBD, but CBD is the one that we can buy, we can sell, we can market, right? So everybody just thinks CBD, 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 or THC, 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 right?
Mhm.
Mm.
But there's so many more THCAs and Vs and CBDGs and CBNs and the list goes on. And literally, there's hundreds of these cannabinoids now. When you talk to anybody or any doctor or Dr. Ethan Russo is the one that really kind of came up with the whole entourage effect idea. And like, so again, I've seen patients that literally, through isolates or CBD or everything they're trying is not working, but you give them a dab of a fresh pressed really nice plant. Oh my god, dude, they sit down, they stop, and they got that medication they need. And if you've ever had one, this is why I talk about a lot too. When you compare products, right, and you can compare highs, you can literally get the same strains, right, and every product and every way you're going to take it's going to make you feel a little different. You smoke it or you dab it, whether you do it
Exactly.
through a pen. Now if it's a regular dab, again, you depending on the process, you have a heavy chance of a chemical, something that's going to be resonated into that product that, again, you have to vac out, oven out, gas off a lot of these products. Fresh pressed dab is just press. It's just heat. You know what I mean? There's no chemicals. There's no BHOs. There's no, labs exploding because the guy fucked up. You know what I mean?
Mm.
We've seen that in a few spots, right? Um,
Everywhere.
yeah,
So
we had
why
that
is it, do you
California.
think that that has become such a popular thing?
Because
Because
I
it's
can
cheap.
literally, because you can go anywhere and do it.
It's
I can go to the
convenience.
movies and hit my pen all throughout the whole movie, and as
Yep.
long as nobody sees
Mm.
your
I was
smoke.
I was just talking about like when my fiance was like giving birth, like I was like, damn, how did I get through that? I was like, oh yeah, I had a dab pen with me. Like, and I was just like, oh, I really need to smoke, like, because she did everything natural. So I'm like doing light touch massage, like trying to keep her
Yep,
good and calm down. And I'm like sitting there, be like,
yep,
in my head, So I just would like walk out of the room, take a hit of the dab pen, like hold it as long as I could, and I'd be like, whoo.
yeah.
Okay, all right, back to it. Like,
It does a trick,
yep.
but again, 90% of that trick is not cannabis. You know what I mean? Let's talk. You've seen people talk about smoking alcohol. Imagine smoking ethanol.
Well,
Uh,
so I knew my extracts are safe. That's not the
mm,
problem. And then I bought cartridges. They were like the most expensive cartridges on the market because they were lab tested.
yeah,
They were manufactured in the USA, which doesn't mean that all the parts actually come from the USA, by the way.
no, they just right.
Um, so and they said that it was lab tested for heavy metals and pesticides, and then but they didn't do the vapor test. They
Yep.
just never really answered
Mm.
me after I sent them my lab test results, like,
So,
oh, hey
but
guys.
Well, depending on
long
the
term,
depending on the
long.
company. I found a company in Michigan that was a dispensary that was actually testing. They call it the after fire test. They would test a product after they'd fire it 3 times and test a product.
Now,
And then you
yes,
would see changes, you know what I mean? And you'd see the changes in the test results. Like you said, the metals start spiking up, you know what I mean? And then
that's why the
like,
vapor is so important, and you have to do the whole cart. You
mhm,
can't just do 3 hits. You gotta
no.
like I spent an hour, and like I said, I bought a little fish tank pump, put it on a
Mhm.
hose with cotton in it, and the pump broke. So
Yeah.
eventually, I was just sitting on the other end of the hose,
Puffing.
firing it on one side, just like holy shit! Just I smoked through a whole 1 milliliter cartridge and caught it in the cotton, and that's
Yep.
why they're lead because it's all of it, and you have to test the whole cartridge. And I was ready to release our cartridge line. I was like, bet I got the formula down. I know I have safe, quality cannabis derived terpenes. I know exactly where my CBD is coming from. It's us, so I know it's safe. That's been tested for that. I know it's good, and this stuff tastes great together. This cartridge is safe, and then I test it. And I'm like, fuck,
Yep.
back to square one. And I called PAX because I was like, oh, you guys are in all the dispensaries. I would assume you're safe, right? Like, can I have some of your cartridges? I just want to buy like 100 of them. They're like, no, like they don't do orders that small. And I'm like, well, can I have like one? I just want to test to see if you guys are safe. And it's just like never got an answer back,
Well, I mean, that's the hardest thing for the market to adjust to. Again, like you said, it's just easy, man. We can go anywhere and smoke it. There's your how anywhere. It's just, and I think that we as a society now we pay for that ease. You know what I mean? That's valuable to us, our lives. I mean, dude, guys, we got people that smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, knowing they're gonna die. Like it doesn't.
Right.
They're just like, fuck this. I want to get fucked up. You know what I mean? So, and then edibles. The problem is edibles aren't a direct thing. They take an hour plus, sometimes a
And
little
it's
less.
a different compound. That's what people don't understand.
Right.
It's no longer just regular Delta 9 THC.
Yeah.
So edibles aren't good for you either?
No, they're
Well, no,
great for you.
they're great for you. Depends on, but they can be just as bad for you as anything else. Depends on what's going into the edible, where you're deriving your sources from. Again, but the biggest problem we see with edibles right now is that most of this stuff ends up in your liver. You know what I mean? Like when you do oils and especially with tinctures, right? An ethanol-based tincture, you're safer at then, but with an oil-based tincture, right? People kind of fuck up the whole tincture process. You know what I mean? I only know this because I just did a huge project on a product that was an oral product. But when you take a tincture of oil, right, or the little bottles, I probably got a few around here. You're supposed to keep that in your mouth for about 4 minutes, right? Because your mouth has to absorb it, and you're trying to absorb oil in a wet, watery saliva mouth, right? Like oil and water don't mix. So what happens with a lot of those things is 80% of it will go down into your digestive system, right? When it goes in your stomach can't process a lot of this, so it pushes it to your liver, right? Now, as you're a patient, if you're a patient, most every drug, anything that you do has liver effects, right? So, or has a digestive effect of somehow. So you're not helping patients in any way by, and people argue me about this, which is fine. Literally, how many people, if you do your tincture, right? How many people do, hold a tincture in their mouth for 4 minutes?
Probably
Come on.
not.
Dude, I know this, and it's the same thing as people that smoke carts. So you're like, your mouth starts watering, you swallow, right? You probably got 20-30% of that product into your system, right?
I don't know if it's 20 to 30. I think it depends on the oil too. Your carrier oil.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's a lot of different things. But when you're doing a carrier oil, again, you're doing oils. You're using fats. Fats don't absorb in your mouth, right? That's why the ethanol is a little better, because it will absorb it and disperse it better in your mouth, right? But you were talking about oil and water, right? It's great when it gets into your digestive system, because as a fat, that's your carrier, right? But how do you digest your fats? Where does it go? You know what I mean? That's a lot of the health issues that we see. But then again, when we talk about obesities and things like that, as long as you know where your product's coming from, again, like Ab says, a lot of it's quality, man. It really is quality. So
Lab testing.
and I'm a chef, so like I've been a chef for years. So like when people use certain oils, like MCTs or coconut-based oils, like those things, as much as we like to eat them or whatever, they're really not good for ingestments. They're actually really great for topicals. You know what I mean? So it's like knowing the products that we're using and what we're putting them into, like you'll see a lot of guys will use shit products in products. A lot of guys will use, and it's hard to tell because you have somebody like Adam, you have somebody that does the test and they do full panel tests and they go and they really make sure their product's legit. And then you have somebody else that's right in the same market that literally is making the shit in their back studio, and you don't really know what you're getting. And like you said, the biggest problem with carts is every time you turn around, there's a company coming out that's getting replicated into the Amazon market. So I can go buy as many of the leading manufacturer carts right now, TKOs, Brass Knuckles, all these carts, literally out of anywhere, China and
AliExpress,
yeah,
like all those things.
So and what sucks about that is like TKO, dude, those guys I met them. Those guys had a great product when they first started doing it, and then shit goes wrong, and then shit goes wrong. You know what I mean? And then there's a crazy story about
a similar situation. That's kind of a similar situation to the Puff Bar,
right? I mean,
if you know what that is.
Oh, I mean, everybody's copying everybody, so it's like you don't know what you're getting, right? You really don't. And it's not to say that some of these black label brands are bad. I have a black label brand that I get that's great. I love it. The guy does awesome work, and then I know it's quality because he's a guy that literally. Well, people, I don't think a lot of people realize is a lot of these guys. It's just like gas. Like this cart market's literally like the gas industry. If you don't realize the gas industry is one of the biggest fucking shams on the continent, right? Mobile, Getty, all these gas companies are they come off the same fucking truck, guys, and they literally, I owned a gas station for a while, right? So Mobile literally is it's like 51. It's a little bottle, dude. It's like 51 milligrams of a product that they put in the gas and make it mobile, and then the other gas station gets 15 of these ones, and then another gas station gets a little other ones, but it's literally all the same gas. So it's getting made, shipped, brought to you by the same person. When it comes to carts,
Just like any industry, though, the
right,
music industry.
yeah, with carts and oils, right? So again, Adam, there's two sides to this industry, right? You have Adam's side where it's the local guy making his product from start to finish, putting in oil and doing all the right things, right? Then you have these other guys that are volume guys that are just bringing in the products and so what happens a lot is labs. This is what happens. The labs make these carts, right? These guys are making 20 carts at a time for 20 different manufacturers, different labels, different brands, different everything, right? These manufacturers are sending them their oils because it's their carts, it's their oils, and this guy gets whatever. A lot of these guys have deals where they cut product, right? They get a percentage of the product that they get. So then they just blend those products and make another product line, right? So I've dealt with these guys, right? So, it's like, hey, and, a lot of their off brands are great because it's the blends of everybody else's oils, and they know the good ones and the bad ones, and they'll kick those oils out. Now they have a really supreme product. But again, it's that's why a Rove box. Let's talk about Roves. Like they're a great product. They have a box. They have a brand. It's like, dude, the box has got to cost more than the fucking cart does, right? A really high quality cart. But now they're getting copied, right? Because you can go buy that on Amazon now too. If you look far enough, you can go buy it. So now I can literally make a product that I
Well,
bought.
that's what happened.
Right. And I can cut it down with hot dog water. You know what I mean? We can do whatever in it. If I'm sending on a supply of glycol, you know what I mean? This is again, you asked me about the cart market, years ago. I think that was the biggest thing that fucked our market up. The glycol. Everybody started cutting it with shit. There's no need to. But the problem is if you ever try to use good product in a cart, it doesn't work. These 1 gram carts will
If
be
you have too much
peanut butter.
competition.
Yeah, well, no, it just again after it heats up and heats up and heats up, and you're heating it up at certain hot points, you're literally cooking the oil, so it's going to sludge. It does the same thing it would in a pan in your engine if you weren't going to change your oil. Literally, just cooks to a hard sludge.
Yep.
Before you get halfway through your cart, that's why if you actually find a real fresh press rosin, you'll never find it in a 1 gram cart. Because by the time it gets down to a half-gram cart, dude, that shit is, like I said, it's hard, plasticky peanut butter, and you don't want to smoke it more than 200 degrees. That's the problem with everybody. You got electric e-nail. How many people have their electric e-nails 400, 500, 600 degrees? That's carbon, dude. You burnt your oil. Like you're smoking burnt shit. Like, and this is great. You know what I mean? You're literally smoking toxins. You're high on toxins. It's not even cannabis at that point. You burnt the shit, right? But when you do it at a lower temperature and it's slower, and everybody goes, I don't feel the high that I'm looking for. And that's the problem with cannabis, I think, because there's so many different ways to get high, and there's so many different effects of that way to get high. Like a dab, should go to your head and you're going to feel it, and blah, 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 right? Good weed, strains are going to treat you differently, right? The blends will treat you differently, but the biggest problem with our markets is half the time I don't know if it's I hate saying these, but in the sativa hybrid, because I don't believe in those classifications. But the easiest way to explain it is when you talk about indica sativa hybrids, how they blend, how they do everything. Again, this cart is a blended oil. I don't know what the fuck's in it, right? It's a blended oil, and you throw a terp on it. Great, you know what I mean? But again, it's the convenience of somebody buying it. Even with dabs, dude, you can buy the best dab in the world, but you know how fucking obnoxious these things get after a while? You're constantly cleaning them. It's a bitch, right? This thing, I just screw on and I go. So again, just the age of convenience is what's killing us in this market. Now, again, it's not medicine to me.
Kills every market, though.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, look at the cigarette market, but I think, you're seeing a big movement in tobacco as well. Like, the tobacco industry is falling on its face right now. People are realizing the poisons. People are realizing they're paying attention now. People are waking up, right? People know that they need to quit.
I feel like what people also fail to understand is the big problem with the vaping is that, like, because kids will go through like a puff bar. Because like if I get a puff bar personally, because I'm not a fiend, so like it could last me anywhere between like 4 to like 6 days. Sometimes I don't even smoke the whole thing. I just throw it out because I don't even want to hit it anymore. Some people will go through a puff bar in a day.
What is a puff bar?
It's a disposable vape.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
So they
And a lot of those are being faked and bought in like China off those websites.
A lot of them are.
Well, that's a problem, you know what I mean? And at some point, whatever becomes popular is going to get ripped off from somebody, right? So, you know, there's high quality carts, double barrel. You know what I mean? It's a high quality cart. If you want to, you know, keep your product in a high quality, they're only going to do certain products. They'll put your oil in one of their things, but when you buy it, there's nobody copying their technology, right? But the problem is it's so cheap and easy, and these are the suppliers to our guys, right? So it's not like China's going, hey, you know, most of these guys wrote a contract with these guys to supply us with a certain amount of carts, and again, a lot of these deals come down to split deals. So if you guys have ever dealt with the cannabis industry, everything's a split. You get $5,000, you're getting 15, you know, 10 to 15 back. Yeah, you know, everything's a weird split. We're partners. I get half a room, you get half a room. You know what I mean? I get half a grow, you get half a grow. Oh, we get oil, you get half, I get half. If you knock the price down, right? Because it's such an expensive fucking game. You know what I mean? Let's talk about how much a kilo of oil costs, right? So you're constantly working out stuff. You know what I mean? Genetics. Hey, let's work a genetics deal out. You know, grows and partnerships always come down to a split of some way. And that's where the industry gets fucked. So again, regulations would not allow this to happen because that's where the black market thrives from, right? That's where these carts are getting made out of. That's where they're getting developed. I mean, 90% of those carts that are illegal are getting made in a lab, guys. It's these guys are getting paid to do it. They're making crazy money, right? And what that product costs that goes into the pen on a lab scale is it's so cheap, it's stupid. But on an atom scale, it's fucking obnoxious because of the testing and everything else. You know, these guys can test one batch of carts and put out 40,000 carts. Atom's going to go test one batch and hopefully get 50 to 100 to hopefully 1,000 carts, and it's going to cost them so much fucking money in testing that's what makes it hard for the guys that are trying to do the right thing. So Adam has two choices. Do I say fuck it and just do what I can and get my carts out there because I need money because it's an investment? And this is where most people, you know, you have to make a decision. Look at how many people have to make decisions every day because of a financial situation. Like how long can you sit on a project, like you were saying, before you can make money on it because you just keep throwing money at it, right? And then when you realize and you go, oh fuck, this ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? You know, I do not like the market. I think it should be a market that's non-existent. Do I use it? Sometimes. You know what I mean? Right now, I don't have any flour in my hands till tomorrow. So
this is all I got left, and
right, my
the
dad
person that I thought was coming
right.
through.
The cannabis market or the market in general?
No, the
or
cart
both.
The cart market. The cannabis market is not going to go anywhere. I mean, like you said, you raised a couple of great points earlier about, you know, monopolies and how they take over the industry. I think we're always going to have that. You know, unfortunately, people have to look at cannabis like it's an industry, right? Do I think it? Right, it's a corporation. So in every corporation, we have a fairly large monopoly in the room, right? And it doesn't matter, but it does allow smaller people to play in the room, right? And if you're a really good small person in that same room, they're going to buy you out and they're going to crush you or push your legacy because you're doing good, right? Like, and that's unfortunately the way business works, right? That's what we see happen with, you know, even in mass. Let's talk about dispensaries being bought out by corporations, right? When everybody vowed to start this whole system, hey, fuck corporations, we're not going to let them in. 2 months into the thing, here they come with millions of dollars, and how do you say no? You know what I mean? It's very hard for people to have that integrity of what they promised and what they say when that money's in their face. You know what I mean? And that's what's killing the industry right now. You know what I mean? And I was just recently part of it where people just literally lie to you. They just use the shit out of you, and then when you get them to a certain point where they dragged you along to a point, they can just kick you out the room because, oh, sorry, I didn't do that contract for 5 months. Yeah, I was kind of busy, you know. Sorry, I didn't pay this guy or that guy or even you. You know, way I had to go fly around the world and and misappropriate funds in so many different ways. I don't want to call it out, right?
Yeah, I honestly just feel like
I mean, look at
it's
MedMen.
kind
You
of
know what I mean?
many.
MedMen's a great example of a fucked up corporation that got big and they did everything rightly wrong, but the way the industry was is they got big, right?
Yeah,
And look
I
where they are
honestly
right
just
now.
feel like if a company is throwing the millions at you, that's because they want the money that you're gonna get long term.
Right. But then again, when these companies are making millions of dollars, that's where I have to call in ethics. Again, dude,
Mm-hmm.
millions of dollars. I mean, I know there's volumes and that's how we make money, but like for Jeff Bezos to make $1 trillion this year, there's something fucked up in our system, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that like shouldn't happen.
no, you know what I mean. And then if he can make $1 billion and our wages or something in that system is failing, you know what I mean. Um, it's a sad system. And I'm not saying anything about taxes or anything of that nature. I'm just saying there's flaws in every system in our world. Really, we can go on for days, right? Business, cannabis, money, banking. You know, you want to talk about banking, right? So unfortunately, in our business, I think again in the next year, if we can get banking, just think about the industry. If we got insurance, if the patients could go get insurance, think about the industry right now. Dispensaries are falling out. They're like, why have a card to pay the tax or not to pay the tax, right? Um, to have a different limit of items. The rec store is way cooler. Hey, they got bongs there. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different ways things are happening. Colorado is a great example of it, where you see Colorado is turning more to the rec driven market than a medically driven market, just because I can put a rec store on every corner, right? I gotta have a license for a dispensary. You know what I mean? I can't compete. I can't be in certain locations because I'm a dispensary, but I can go 7-Eleven, a rec market, right? Look at cookies. Look at MedMen again. MedMen was a dispensary that tried to do it, and in all these markets where all of a sudden they went rec. What do? They fell on their face. It's kind of like what Anthus is doing right now. They went so far in the medical fields that these states all went recreation, and now their medical.
Mm.
It costs more. You got to buy a license. Unless you can get delivery, dude. It's just we're convenience again driven. Economy. If you can order from your buddy who's going to bicycle up to your fucking house for $50 less and no tax and probably better weed, what are you doing? You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of people out there that want to support the system because they want to see it proceed, but right now the system's so fucked up. It's all about the green. You know what I mean? The government wants their cut. Everybody wants their cut. Literally, it's a plant, guys. It should be no different than a fucking tomato, in my opinion. And if you can make tomato sauce with it, great. Make tomato sauce and tax it, right? If you can make it trip balls and make it trip balls like mushrooms, great. Just sell it like an agricultural product. That's what it is, right?
Speaking of tripping balls,
well,
actually, this has nothing to do with tripping
mushrooms,
balls.
right? Mushrooms are going to be nationally legal before cannabis, the way it's going, right? Look at Mexico, right? Cocaine, oh yeah, mushrooms, fuck yeah. Ooh.
So I have another question.
What's your question?
Do you feel like the normalization of cannabis into like a younger demographic now, in terms of like it being more available and like sold to like really get you like super like faded, is a direct correlation of what's being pushed in the music industry as terms of like just like flooding your ears with this certain sound?
When you talk about just like the cannabis culture
with
I'm
kids,
talking,
he's,
I'm just
so he's
shifting it
basically
to
saying
music.
like, so people our age, Joe, because you're how old are you?
So I'm 42.
Okay, so I'm 30. So we're like the perfect 10 years apart, basically. So like Isaac's 20, I'm 30, you're 40. So we're like the perfect 10 years apart. And people from your generation and my generation as kids, we didn't have dabs and we didn't have dab carts and we didn't have all these crazy high milligram edibles unless we made them ourselves, which were like impossible because it would stink up the house. So what Isaac's saying basically is like, do you think that like the dumbing down of hip hop could possibly be because of how available like dabs and everything are to kids, and it's such a high concentrate that it's messing them up?
No, I think the dumbing down of hip hop is the juice, is the heroin, is the ketamine, is all
Those
these fucked up
Xanax,
drugs that the kids.
Percocets.
Right. I mean, again, when we were kids, we didn't have a lot of what the availabilities are now, right? DMT, K, you know what I mean? We didn't have that shit. We had mushrooms, acid, and weed, and some angel dust. Yeah, where the fuck? I don't know what happened to angel dust, but like when if you grew up in the Boston area, as you know 20, 30 years ago, a lot of the weed was dusted, guys. Sorry, I hate to say it, but you bought good weed, you were fucked up. It was great weed, but it was like Mexican brown brick bud with seeds, or like Kush, or like, I mean, there's some great weed around, but it was just like such a drastic difference. It was $90 an ounce, you know what I mean? And you're just like, it was great, right?
That's
Uh,
crazy. Holy shit.
well, it
It's
depends on
like
the weed. It's like our market now. I used to buy Kush back in the day that would fucking two hit shit, but it was $100 a quarter. You know what I mean? And I gladly paid it 8 times a week. You know what I mean? Just because the weed was that good, and I was making money. But the brown bud, it was cheap. You know what I mean? So like you hear stories about typically back in our day, the brown buds. Everybody jokes about the Mexican weed, right?
Mhm.
But when you talk about what was really available back then, like landrace strains, like at High Times, a lot of their number one strains are back from the 70s and the 80s, right? A lot of these great strains back then were really great. It wasn't a THC issue back then; it was a stoner issue, right? It was how you felt, how it affected you, the headbands, the crazy way that a Diesel or a Chem Dog, or and then any of these, let's talk about Colombians, for instance, or the Mauis, or like these landrace strains, or these strains that people started crossing out of, right? um they were great, dude. You know what I mean? Like, what I
Mhm.
would do to get my hands on like a 70s Colombian anything, right? Just because of the flavors, the Afghanis that people have back crossed now. So a lot of the weed that we're smoking now has, and this is what's great about our industry and technology, is like we've come so far to push it to go to the THC, get you fucked up, big bud, chem, all of our nutrient lines. Like, we weren't doing this shit 10 years ago, dude. We had better, they were just as good as we, if not better, right? But we're pushing it, and we're pushing it in ways that are not natural, they're not healthy. And
Well,
then
I do think that bottle newts, if they're good, like I think Advanced Nutrients has a really good organic line, and I think bottle newts make it easier for the people that don't necessarily have a green thumb,
right.
and they want to be able to grow their own meds. So it really
Mhm.
simplifies that process for them a little bit,
Mhm.
which I think is
It
really awesome.
simplifies, but I think that's where we dumbify the issue, right? Let me put it this way really quick. So one of my biggest issues, and this is, and then, kind of like a trade get thing. It's like, everybody uses CalMag. Do you know most calcium issues are not calcium issues? It's just pH based issues. And then when you start going tracing, you're throwing CalMag at, now you're going, oh shit, I got a potassium problem. Well, fuck. And then now I
real
got a
quick.
zinc problem. Now go look up pH levels and how your pH and uptake on a plant is, right? So, people aren't checking their pH. They're running high pH numbers. They're getting nutrient imbalances. They start chasing it with nutrients that they're spending lots of money on, right? And they never seem to get the plant to be right. They'll get it to go back and swing, and it's always like, it's a constant battle, right? 9 times out of 10, I bet you their pH is high. You know what I mean? Your plant just won't take it. It only takes so much. You literally, there's pH is an acid, so your nutrient uptake is really stingent on pH. You hear the best growers in the world talk about pH all the time for a reason. When the best growers in the world talk, you have to listen, right? One of the things I've been privy to is I'm able to talk to all the best people that do this. I'm talking to the guys that think they're the best people that do this, and I get all their how do you do it? You know what I mean? Because I'm a grower and I get it, and I'm like a chef. There's 900 different ways to cook that egg. I say this a lot. Show me yours. You know what I mean? And let me tell you mine, and let's compare. You know what I mean?
Yours, I'll show you mine.
Yeah, dude, let's smoke a blunt and talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm interested. I want to learn something today. You know what I mean? A lot of these
I
guys
think
don't want to learn, and
I
you
think
only have
Isaac
one
had a
way
I
to learn
do.
question.
something, right?
I would like to learn um, your opinions on the modern hip hop industry right now.
Yeah, we were just talking. We were talking. So I
Oh
was
yeah,
gonna say, we an hour and 10 minutes ago, we were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about 6ix9ine," but just real quick, and then we just got into an hour-long cannabis conversation.
okay, yeah. The modern thing is it's different. So I've been in the music industry for many years. Adam, he can tell you it's the same thing, and he was perfectly right off air when we are talking about it. you get 10 grand, you're in the business, dude. You get 15 grand, you're in the industry. You buy your way in. Like it sucks, and I hate to say it, but it's a fucked up industry, guys. I've been in it for 20 years. You know what I mean? I've managed bands, I've done events, I've done shows, I've dealt with Capodonas and Wu-Tangs and huge national artists. Right? They're my friends. We go visit them a lot, actually. Right? We might actually have something coming up
Really,
with those guys.
really, it's really, 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 really easy to open up for a big artist. Really,
Yes,
if
you
do
buy
that.
your way in now. That's where the industry got bad. Once and then that's the problem with the internet right here. This little thing that we have going on right here, that this is the biggest killer of music, right? Because now and I did this too. I can become a back home studio producer, right? I was a DJ. I used to produce all my own remixes. I used to do all my own mashups. I used to do all my shit and get it all set. So when I was in the club, I'm just banging mashups together that I've already made and pre-made, and it's fucking sick, you know. And I spin on 4 decks, so when I go nuts, I go nuts. It's like, you know, it's samples and beats and 2 songs, you know what I mean? So,
So
but
do you think that there's a very absence of real talent in the
yes,
modern
unfortunately,
day
yes,
industry?
yeah. I mean, unfortunately,
I don't know.
there's great talent here, but the problem is people want sellability, right? They want the influencer, they want the hot chick, they want, you know, the beautiful whoever girl guy behind the mic singing a great song, that someone else wrote for them and someone else produced the music for them.
Mm,
That's the fucked
like
up part. So
Travis.
like a lot of this
So
music isn't their real music anymore. They got there on their real music, but when they get to the mainstream, they go, "Hey, you have a great sound. We're going to change it all around on you, and you have to sign the contract, or we're not doing it." Right? That's
so
where the music
how do you
industry gets
feel
fucked up.
about how do you feel about I'm gonna name 3 people and I want an opinion on each person.
Let's do it.
There we go.
So Travis Scott,
Great. I like him a lot.
did you know he doesn't write his own music anymore?
Most of these guys don't. They really
Mm,
don't. A lot of
I
them
think my
don't.
camera
The
froze.
independent guys will. You know what I mean? You know, you got like you got like the likes of M's and those guys. You know, I mean,
mm,
not to say that everybody's doing it, right? The majority of people that are in this industry, in the music industry, there's ghostwriters. Dude, I was a ghost chef. It happens, man. And people laugh at me when I tell them I won folders as a ghost chef.
mhm,
You know what I mean? So it's like I literally wrote a menu and produced everything for someone else to stand at the end of the line for 2 nights a week and take the credit for it because he had a name, right? And
mm,
unfortunately, that's what happens with all these people. Producers, I mean, especially back in the day when let's talk about Kanye and all these guys that, you know, Diddy, how they came up and through is through producing these guys, and then they put themselves on a hook. You know what I mean? Then they get
mhm,
popular, right? So the whole industry changed when obviously the internet happened, right? Because now you're you know your access to music, especially back then, you know, BitTorrents, downloading, stealing music was a popular thing to do. So now the artists aren't getting paid. They figured out ways now to get artists paid, you know, through performances and BMIs and ASCAPs and things of that nature. So when every time we play something anywhere, every time you hear something in a store, somebody's paying those royalties, right? Which
yeah,
trickle down to the artist, right? So that's how they're getting paid. Because you know now you can go to Spotify and get a whole album for how
for
many?
Nothing.
free.
You know what I mean? Literally 10 cents a song or $1 a song or whatever. You know what I mean? And then you can pick through the album and you can literally just take what you want, right? Um,
Mhm,
so I think the excitement. I mean, just look at what it's done to blockbusters. Look at what it's done to FYEs. Look what it's done to all the DVDs or the videos or the CD stores. It's put that whole industry went out of business because it's accessible through here, right? And now what sucks for artists now is they're not making any money. And if you're an artist now, your royalties are literally in commercials. You're trying to make something out of YouTube and Spotify, and you're getting paid shit for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You gotta do dumb shit to be viral and be relevant.
literally,
So the,
you literally make maybe 1% of the total money that you bring in for a company if you make that, and then you have to, with YouTube, yeah, you can
What-
make 3 million, you can make millions of dollars on YouTube, but you know how many people you get clicking and liking and
what-
doing your thing, and it's, you know, it's
we
just
still got
it's a
two
crazy
people
market.
left.
Okay, so you said Travis Scott, and then who did you say?
I didn't say anyone yet. That's the
Oh,
thing.
so
We
Dude,
just
Travis
said
Travis
Travis
Scott.
Scott,
Scott.
dude, wait, hold on. Travis Scott, the whole Fortnite thing. We want to talk about the cool shit going on and what technology has done for us. Dude, Travis Scott, Marshmello, all these guys are having Fortnite. My kid, 8 years old, is like, Dad, Marshmallow's having a concert. I'm like, wait, what? What? I'm a DJ. I play clubs. I have a radio show. We play this guy all the time. Well, what? And you go in there, and these guys are interacting now through these other platforms. This is what's kind of cool. You know what I mean? Am I a gamer? No. I think that's a whole other industry that, pros and cons in like every industry. But you know what I mean? That whole thing's really cool because you're bringing in people through different things. The COVID thing is really fucking changed everything. So, we wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for COVID, doing this kind of thing. We wouldn't. It would be a totally different thing, and cannabis, would it be an essential drug? Would it be an essential item? Would we be breaking records? Probably not, guys. You know what I mean? That's a thing. Like you were saying before, where you're in the music industry, but you're in the fashion industry. The fashion industry, dude, is fucking going nuts right now because everybody's buying t-shirts. They're buying something because they're at home just clicking away. They have nothing better to do, right?
They're just bored and stoned and buying
So,
right,
the
but
last two artists
it's
I was
cash, right?
about-
It's all credit cards. It's all bullshit, right? They're trying to get rid of money. They're trying to get rid of change. Again, a year from now, we're going to be living in a very different world, and I don't think people really have come to this yet. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be hard to tell again because it's who we're going to vote in. How's the elections going to go? Are we going to get a nuclear war? You know what I mean? There's so many different fucking things that could happen. Our country could burn down tomorrow. Like, it's like 60% of our country's on fire right now. 60%, guys. And then we got snow in the other half of it. And LA's hit the hottest temperatures it's ever been the other night. Ever. And it's because of this fire, right? And what we don't really realize is, as this burns and goes on, the smoke in our atmosphere, our ozone layer, the sun getting through, like we're seeing these, I don't know if anybody paid attention to social media today, but like all these pictures coming out of California are, dude, it's the apocalypse, right? We're seeing friends of ours grows and beautiful plants outside, and right behind them, it's just a pillage of fire. You know what I mean? And the Golden Gate Bridge and all these crazy things. That's why I say it's so hard for us to understand even what's going on between that, the BLM movement, the cops, the protests, the fires. Like, we've pissed off we're pissing off everybody. We're pissing off Mother Nature. The whole world is, rioting. It's crazy. And the scariest thing is what's right, what's wrong, who you listen to. You know what I mean? What I see online is the scariest thing. I have people I respect to the highest amounts of respect that I read some of the shit they post, and I'm just like, and then I got to ask myself, am I the one seeing this wrong? You know what I mean? I try to be very, as a media guy, we try to be very, on radio, you technically have no opinion. That's why we're laughing when me and Adam are talking about this, because as hosts, we really don't have an opinion. You know what I mean? It's just, you kind of keep the show going. You let the guy talk, right? And we don't get the chance to take these opportunities a lot. But media, man, it's, let's look at MSNBC, let's look at CNN, let's look at Fox News, right? And you take those three apart, and like, one guy's telling you the world's burning, the other guy's telling you the world's great. One guy's telling you the sky's purple, the other guy's telling you the sky's pink. You know what I mean? One guy's telling you this guy's guilty, the other guy's telling you this guy's not guilty.
So much misinformation spread on purpose to be able to
divide and conquer, right? But what it's doing right now, and this is a big problem. If there's no COVID, guys, I don't think we'd be in these issues. That we wouldn't see it extend to this point. Now, do I believe there's an issue that needs to be talked about? Fuck yeah. Is there a systematic issue? Fuck yeah, right? Is it an all black issue? I have a lot of black friends. It's not an all black issue, but right now it is the black issue. So we all should be supporting that, because that's the issue at the hand. If your kid's getting bullied at school and getting beat up, I'm going to go help. I'm going to stick up for your kid and not be like, well, my kid's not getting bullied. Fuck your kid. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. It just makes no sense to me. And the problem is for me, it stems from home. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? I don't think we're born with it. I don't think we're bred with this anti thing of hating somebody from another color or look from us. I don't believe that, right? I think it's something that we, through media, through TV, through our parents, through whatever that hits us in that certain age of development that makes you not like a certain person, right? Because there's fucking douchebags in every race, guys. Let's and some are no better than others, dude. Like as a white dude, come on, guys, we are probably the worst race, right?
We've done some
Um,
fucking up.
Right, you know what I mean, and and I I'm like I said, I'm from Boston. I'm in that area. You know what I mean. I grew up in Lowell, so it's like, in certain areas you're the minority as a white guy, right? You know what I mean. And then even as a white guy, it's segregated. There's an Irish guys, there's Italian guys, there's Greeks, there's and as anybody knows about Boston colonization, it was all colonized to segregation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's fucked up. You have your Irish side, you have your Italian side, you have your Chinese side, you have, it's segregation, right? And it's segregation that we put there. When you talk about, school segregation, you talk about living segregation, right? Talk about slums, talk about the parts of the city that nobody wants to go to. Those are segregated and people are put there for certain reasons, right? Now it's much easier to and we're not the only ones that do it. Look at Hitler. You know what I mean? It's much easier to blame a culture and shift the focus off of something by pointing a finger, and we're seeing that right nowadays, because now it's like we're pointing a finger at the police, we're pointing a finger at the blacks, we're pointing a finger in a lot of places, and it needs to be pointed. But what I mean, do we need to defund and deregulate and do all these things? No, we need to set up the system better. You know what I mean? Why is a cop that gets 4 months of training, 6 months of training, go out and be able to make a decision on what's legal, what's not legal, when we have lawyers that go to school for 8 years? You know what I mean? These guys aren't putting through proper stress tests. Like, there's a lot of great cops out there, guys. Let's not lie, right?
I think the defund the police thing is vastly misunderstood. I think what people are really trying to say is that police don't need military vehicles.
Yes,
and spending
that's where I say
billions of dollars on military weapons and military vehicles and tactical gear and all this crazy shit that's used for war in our own country. It's like, what are we doing? Why are our police equipped with this? And instead of being equipped with military vehicles, they should be equipped with more training, right? These cops are put into a system that only trains them when they first get in, and then there's never any more training. They don't really check in with them, like mental wise. A lot of these guys have PTSD. They've seen people die in car accidents. They've seen kids die. They've seen crazy shit. So what happens is the system is built against them. And so they go in maybe with good intentions, and what happens is the system breaks them down because they realize they have no help, nowhere to turn. And if they see something wrong, there's a brotherhood, and they got to stand up for the brotherhood, or they're going to get chastised and thrown away, and be treated completely different. So the main thing is, I think the money should be reallocated. So maybe like reallocate police funding. It needs to be it just doesn't sound as smooth as defund police. But reallocate and instead it's training. They should be training at least 10% of the time that they're on the force. They should be training at least monthly. I literally think monthly. There should be some kind of mental or physical or a little of both, or jujitsu training, like, stuff like that. Like, they should have to do these things because they should learn how to subdue people without shooting them. And
I mean, you make a great point. I just want to add to that real quick before you skip over it. But defund is not the right word, and I agree with you. Now, my thought and focus was the same as yours. Like, they don't need to be militarized, right? But then again, look at what happened in 2020. Where would we be if we don't have militarization right now? You know what I mean? It would be a more of a mess than it is right now, right? Do we need to proceed in the ways that we do? Again, a lot of what we see is perceptions, right? It's how we are perceiving the issue, right? I mean, a lot of it's how it's fed to us through the media. That's where it gets fucked up. That's why watching the live feeds, you're watching it right there. You make that decision, right? You're seeing it from someone's real perspective. It isn't what a news agency or media outlet or anybody's trying to put a twist on. And like, I see both sides in a lot of these cases. You know what I mean? I've been stunned and blown away. But when you see report videos, and then and then I've been stunned and blown away when you do see report videos, what people think. You know what I mean? And you're just like, Jesus, you're like, how do you think this way, right? But then again, when you do watch media from a certain other side, I'm blown away by what I see, because like we live in our own worlds, right? So like you listen to what you listen to, I'll listen to what I listen to, and when we talk about media and being, you know what I mean, it's no different from back in the war eras where it's all propaganda and they're literally dropping in little snippets in your head to get you to start thinking in certain ways. It's like the Democrats versus the Republicans in the last 4 years. I've seen nothing but pissing contests, more than I've ever seen a pissing contest ever. It's like we can't get anything established, whether it's good or bad, right? I'm not going to shit on the presidency, because literally, good, as good or bad as you want to say the presidency is, like, what the fuck? It's the shit below it. You know what I mean? And until they get that shit figured out, it is affecting the cannabis industry. Mitch McConnell, dude, he fucking loves hemp, but fuck you and your cannabis, right? Like, I'll sign everything with a hemp pen. I live with a hemp pen. My sheets are hemp. Like in cannabis, right? So that's what we say about the MORE Act going into the Senate. You know what I mean? It's probably going to pass because the bipartisanship support's there. But when it gets in the Senate, we know it's going to die. So, like, the people that really kind of have an inside view and know what's going to happen, we're not that excited. We're like, all right, great, we're here again. You know what I mean? Until we vote these guys out, and until we can get these guys out of the way, because he's never going to change his attitude. You know what I mean? He's a money guy. They're politicians. They're all driven by money in their companies. He's got corporate interest in all this, right? In his state, his state is a hemp producer. They need the money. He has interest in the hemp production. He needs the money. Why do you think he's going to let it happen, right? But cannabis, no cannabis. Why? Because cannabis is probably going to take over the hemp industry, right? Yeah, because CBD and whatever, right? It's a joke, right? It's a fucking joke. And then we just have these old, people that have been there for 30 plus years arguing with themselves, having a pissing contest while everybody below them is just agreeing and wants to move forward. You know what I mean? Like all the new fresh faces there, the bipartisanship support's unreal, right? Until you get to that top level of these guys that have been there for 30 years that will never change their attitude. And oh my God, the weeds, the devil's lettuce. So look at the governor the other day. What was it? Illinois? Not Illinois. Who fucking came out and said it's not even medical? Like, he was literally like, fuck weed. It's not medical. Like, it's a joke. And you're like,
EcoFam commented on one of the watch parties I have going and said, check who's padding his pockets. Hemp is cannabis. So that's so silly. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Like,
well,
hemp
it is
cannabis. Like, it's the same thing. Shitty. Like, you don't even use the terminology that the government created for you to use. Like, good job, man. Great job. You didn't say marijuana and hemp. That's what you're supposed to say as a governor, and like that's the terminology.
Let's try to stay away from marijuana. You know what I mean? That's the stigma word, right? I mean, people don't realize it because it's been just a word. Like, pot's not the stigma word. Marijuana is the stigma word.
Pot is a little bit too. I hate hearing pot. I don't like it.
Well, I hate it as well. We don't like it because that's just a generational loss. But when we talk about the stigmas, let's talk about reefer madness, right? Go back to reefer madness. It was all marijuana, right? They even spelt it a little different, right? Because it came from the Mexicans when they kind of came over. The whole. There's a lot of different things to the legalization and criminalization and hemp and everything to that. And like, I was even taught a lot recently by John Dvorak. Shout out to John.
Hey.
He's been an immense figure in our industry because he's teaching the right things, and he's basically. This was a racial issue. It was, the Mexican Revolution. They came in, they thought they were going to, take your wives and steal your women. And, it was crazy. You know what I mean? Like, marijuana is going to, you're going to lose your family to this drug, right? Which is, when you think about it, it's kind of a funny joke. And then the stigmas came out, you know what I mean? You're going to die. It's going to kill you. It's, it's this, it's that, it's that. We post a lot of the of those, back in the air types of posts and propaganda that they'd put out. But that's the problem we have. It's the media is so controlling of propaganda. I could tell you whatever I want, and you're going to listen to me, right? Joe Rogan goes on a show and speaks to millions of people. I love fucking Joe Rogan, and a lot of what he says, I trust, right? He's probably different than most of me, but like then you have an Alex Jones and you have all these guys, and like nothing's better than watching like a Ben Shapiro and a Joe Rogan sit down together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about this wet ass pussy. I really don't like these lyrics because if it's wet, there's probably a medical problem.
Right. I mean, Ben Shapiro. Yeah. To hear him on Rogan, you laugh, right? Because it's like that. He talks about his personal stuff, and he's a Jewish guy, but he brings up a lot of not that I agree with him a lot, but he brings up perspectives. You know what I mean? Like I'm a perspectives
Mm.
thinker. I try to think about what other people's perspectives are when I do things. Like, you know, Joe Rogan has a great perspective on things that I'm more related to. You know what I mean? I'm a lot like him. He's a big influence on me. He was a huge influence on the radio show. We went to radio because the way he conducts himself in an interview is the ways I try to do it. It's he has a unique style and he's got great flow and it's like he obviously look what he's doing within the podcast industry, right? And he's trusted. That's the thing, you know what I mean. And he's trusted with an opinion. So that's the hardest thing to do in our media industry, right? Is to have an opinion and have people trust you. Because in the minute you have an opinion, like politics, race, anything we talk about, there's a line that gets divided, and then you get the people that are going to either attack what you say. Some people will ignore what you say. Next thing you know, you're being called one way or the other. You know what I mean? We've seen that in our industry. Oh, you're a racist. What do you mean? How am I racist? I'm trying to help you guys. You know what I mean? Or like,
I have never been
communication. That's the fucked up part. Nobody wants to talk anymore. We all message each other. Fuck messaging. Pick up the phone.
I have that weird in between, right? Where so I get people that will be Spanish that say, people like us, they'll like say that to me thinking, I'm Spanish and things like that.
Right.
So I think some people think I'm Spanish and then white people, a lot of them don't know, but the ones that know I'm white, like people like us, like so I'm in
Yeah.
this weird in between thing, but
They'll talk about other people that just blows my mind. They'll talk about somebody who is Spanish or white in a negative way, and you're like, dude, I'm hello.
right, like why does that have to be my identity? Either one. I've never really I've personally until getting into the cannabis industry, yeah, I haven't had a lot of white friends, I'll be honest. Like a lot of my best friend is like white, but I grew up in the hip hop industry, like all my friends that I came up with were black. So it's one of those things that kind of hits home for me. It's really cool. I miss making music. I was actually just making music this past weekend, not to like switch subjects, but I haven't done it in like fucking 3 years. So I'm pretty happy.
No, dude, it's a great release, man. No, you nailed it on the head. I mean, I think I was when uh to try to answer the question from earlier with the hip hop, I was trying to explain it in a way that I thought it was interesting from the difference between then and now in culture, right? Because I thought he was asking about the hip hop weed culture. Because think about back in the '90s, hip hop culture was all about weed, smoking joints, and it was a little gangsta back then. You had NWA, you had Two Live Crew, and then it got into you know all sorts of different Tupac, and then as it got going, Nas and those guys, if you want to stay in the mainstream, what people know, right? And below that you had all sorts of great music, right? So yeah, growing up as a even a white kid, I'm a white guy, and I don't really have much culture but Indian and Irish to me. Scottish, I think, yeah, Indian, Irish, Scottish. I don't know, mom. Tell me if I'm wrong. Um, but like to me, I don't
Tell
know,
me if
man.
I'm wrong.
Dude, well, you know what? To me, it's like I'm a food guy, right? So I'm a culinary guy. I've won awards. I've gone to culinary school. That was my main thing for a long time. But the industry just wore me out, right? Um,
That happens.
you learn to appreciate stuff, and like in a kitchen, it's a different world, right? Because like it's different. I don't know if you've ever worked in a kitchen, but it's a teamwork mentality. 90, most kitchens I've ever worked in outside of Vermont. I was a chef in the Boston area. I was running the Sunset Grill. I was in a lot of these different places, but we'll take the Sunset Grill for example. I was the only chef and a white guy in 3 restaurants, and I was the boss. You know what I mean? Dealing with like Portuguese and Spanish. So it's like for me, like I've that's why I say in every race there's assholes, in every race there's great people, right? I've met some great Jewish guys. I got best friends that are Peruvian. I've got Brazilian buddies that I'll have friends forever. You know what I mean? Germans. It doesn't matter to me, right? I had Russian partners, so like you are what you are, but unfortunately we have such cultures that are driven by not race, but I think the race more happens from religion, dude. You know what I mean? Like that's where it really kind of gets to me. You know, religion is we get fucking countries fighting 100-year wars over a religious belief. You know what I mean? And then most of these beliefs, you're not supposed to be killing fucking people. You know what I mean? And that's what kills me. You know, we can't eat a pig, but we can fucking have a 100-year war. You know what I mean? Or eat a cow, right? It blows my mind mentality of some of this stuff. Like maybe I'm just a realist. We're only here for a certain amount of time, right? So it's like for me, there was a time like that culture, hip hop culture. There's things I didn't care about. I was smoking weed to get fucking stoned. I was smoking weed because Dre was telling me it was cool. You know what I mean? I was driving around with blunts, that was it, right? You know what I mean? Like that was our culture growing up. Like right now, we don't hear songs about smoke weed every day. We're hearing like, oh, juice and opioid after opioid after opioid after opioid, and you're just like, what the fuck? And I do see the effect, but I don't think it's cannabis. You know what I mean? Everybody says cannabis is the entrance drug or the gateway drug. I think it's the exit drug. You know what I mean? For me, right? Like I've tried acid, I've tried drugs. You know what I mean? But like it just was never my thing, so I never did it again. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I like weed. You know what I mean? You have fun on acid for a few times. You're like, yeah, this is great. Like, okay, now what? You know what I mean? Like. And a lot of that influence, I think, to me, it's like I laugh at people. I'm like, dude, really? I think what the problem is when some people grow older, they forget how they grew up. You know what I mean? Like, literally, anybody asks this question to them, like, dude, where did you first either smoke a cigarette, drink a beer, or have a joint handed to you? Right? 9 times out of 10, it's either at your home with your family, or at a party. Right? Right, or a friend's family that is allowed to do that because that's loose in their house, right? Cannabis is loose in my house. My kid knows I smoke. He's seen me smoke. I'm not shy about it. I do my thing. You know what I mean? And he's understanding. He knows it's medicine. I mean, obviously, I'm a little different because of the shows and the things that we do and the support, and we're always working. And there's always people here from that industry. He's exposed to it. So I think with exposure, though, and without the stigma in exposure, it becomes different. It's kind of like, sex in America versus sex in Europe, right? Like you go there and the news, the chick's naked, right? But the rapes are less there, and it seems like it's more just it's kind of like drugs in essence. What they're talking about now, like the easier the access, the more you can get to it, the less issues we're going to have, right? And then hopefully addictions and things will pan themselves out in the long run through help or services or whatever they want to do, right? Dr. Uma says is great. She's exactly right. It is an exit drug. And I think right now we're seeing the biggest like proof of that is look at these guys on opioids, look at these guys are on painkillers, look at these guys are on pharmaceuticals right now that the doctors are literally prescribing to these guys. And I was one of those patients, and 20 years ago in Mass, I had a severe puncture wound in the top of my head. I had to go to a neurosurgeon. I couldn't stand up. I was fucked up, dude. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I was a mess. You know what I mean? I had post-concussive syndrome. I was on nine different meds, and like literally it was one for my head, the actual issue, then all these side effect drugs. I couldn't stand up. I went to the doctor, and he was literally like, hey, do you smoke weed? And I'm like, I did, but I can't now because it's just on top of 9 pills I'm taking a day, up to 2 times a day. I can't function, right? Weed, I can't, it just wasn't doing anything, right? So literally he was like, stop doing the drugs and, come back and we'll get you into we'll get you cannabis, right? This was 20 years ago in Mass, right? So, obviously, as most people know, Mass cannabis has been around a long time. There's been services there for a long time. It's never been like what it is now, but I could have got my license in Mass 20 plus years ago, and that's a lot of these guys. There was very few out there. If you had certain issues, you could definitely get it. And I need a neurologist to be able to get me that prescription, but I decided not to because I'm like, dude, what did you just? I can get a what? Huh? Do nothing about it, right? I'm like, I can what? You're gonna what?
Are you talking about the caregiver program that they used to have in Mass?
Yeah, but like I didn't know nothing about it back 20 years ago, right? Because it was just drug to me, dude. I was selling weed, like that's what we did. You know what I mean? Like a lot of us, I mean, let's not lie about it. A lot of us people that are in the industry were in the industry for many years, right? And whether you're growing it, selling it, moving it, it's been an industry. That's why I laugh about when people are like, "Oh, stoners are gonna crash." I'm like, dude, you realize how much weed's been being sold for 20 years? You know what I mean? It's kind of like same with cocaine and other issues like that. Like you don't see high crashes and instances of. I mean, not to say it doesn't happen, right? But you know what I mean. But some of these opioids, heroin, shit like that, dude. These guys are just falling asleep in fucking middle of intersections and ODing. You know what I mean?
It's fucked up.
Driving through people's houses, because they just pass out driving. You know what I mean? They just take out a line of cars on the side of the road. Like some of the shit we see now, it's crazy. That's why I laugh about a lot of it because it's like a lot of this stuff's been around for a while, so we've seen the effects of mushrooms, and it's not like the best part about it is a lot of the labs produce this stuff. You know what I mean? Like look at most of the opioids; they're all lab produced, right? They're all off something that they produce for something, right? Whether it's a war or a vaccine or something they're trying to figure out. You know what I mean?
I just sneezed. I'm sorry. I muted myself. I don't know how I did it. I was like, here it comes.
Dude, that was like the best hair. Like it was just like whoosh. You were back. But anyways, the pharmaceutical industry, dude, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's just government sponsored drug dealing. You know what I mean? And the sad part about it is, and you look at these companies, and you saw like Pfizer and a lot of these big companies just got in trouble for it recently because they literally have the drug that's making you addicted to the drug, and then they're the ones that actually have the cure for that drug with another drug, right? You know what I mean? So they're just fucking you on both ends, right? Getting you addicted to drugs. When I was growing up, dude, at least for me personally, the best thing I can say is, growing up in the areas I grew up in, outside of Boston, stuff like that, I've seen a lot of shit, right? I've seen guns in my face. I've seen people get shot. I've seen it all, right? Like literally pick a movie and I've seen it, right? It's sad, right? But like you learn things and you don't become numb to things. I think you become more open minded to things. You know what I mean?
You have to.
Exactly. So there's sides to every story and there's things to everything. But like, fuck, the industry is crazy, man. Until regulations set in, it's going to be the wild wild west. But like I said, a year from now, dude, it's going to be crazy. You know what I mean? The hip hop industry. It's tough, man, because there's some good guys out there. Like we didn't get to number 3, did we?
I don't think we got to number 2. He was on Travis Scott, and then we started talking about ghostwriting and everything.
Well, you know who he's going to ask about because he was already gearing up to give us some stats on it earlier. So the 6ix9ine. I don't even a lot of this isn't music to me, man. Tell me a story. Hooks with slapping bitches around, doing all these drugs, shooting people. Like, when I was a kid, I dug it. I get it. It's fun. That's where I think we forget we were kids once, right? I loved it, right? NWA, right? But like, as a dad and adult, like, yeah, dude, my girlfriend, let's have some fun. But like to beat up a woman or to, take someone's like rights away. Like I may not agree with you on everything, but like I don't wish you anybody harm, and I don't want to take your right away to your opinion, right? But look at us, we're educators, right? So I just want to give me a second to educate you, right? You know what I mean? Because that's where people don't communicate, right?
Exactly.
A lot of these arguments we see are just, even just think about your personal life arguments. Think about you and your wife or girlfriend or best friends, right? When we have an argument, it's usually a miscommunication. It's something that you didn't understand that they were trying to conceive. Maybe it was an assumption. Again, I think that's where a lot of people, they assume without checking in. You know what I mean? Like, oh, because I how many times does somebody piss you up because, well, I thought you wouldn't care, or I didn't think it would hurt, or I thought, right?
Yeah, I didn't think you'd be interested. Like, I just didn't ask.
Right. You know what I mean? Oh, I cheated on you because I thought, so it's like, and through social media, and obviously it's made it much more difficult to have an old fashioned style relationship. I'm an old fashioned guy, dude. Like, I don't know how people can, my last relationship, I had guys inboxing my girlfriend all day long. You know what I mean? And like, how do you deal with that? For me, it's not. It's hopefully that she has enough respect for us, our relationship, and stuff like that. But like, then again, the ways to maneuver and to work, whether it's relationships, whether it's business stuff. I mean, even business stuff, man. How many times have you told a boss to go fuck off, and like a couple of days later, you're like, well, maybe he was right a little bit. I was an asshole that day. You know what I mean? Like, but like a lot of pride gets in the way, and you know what I mean. Do I think we're raising kids right now the right way? Fuck no. Fuck no. Participation trophies. That's no. You know what I mean? Like that's where we get people upset that they and don't put that effort in it, or don't, you know what I mean? Like, you want to be at the top of the game, go master the game, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
You want to be Michael Jordan, go be fucking Michael Jordan. You want to be
You need
Tupac,
the
go be Tupac. We're
losses.
talking about the industry, right? You want to be Tupac, go get good, and then come up the right way. Don't go like we said, pay your way in. Dude. This is what kills me, because we've seen. You had a great question earlier. We've seen so many great artists that people just don't know or haven't seen, or maybe they just stay local because they can't get that deal, but they're phenomenal, dude. Like again, I worked in the festivals. I worked in the festival scene for 3, 4, 5 years, right? And we put on events and we did huge festivals, so we get to work with people that were absolutely fucking amazing. But like people that you don't know in mass, probably, unless they toured down there or they were nationwide, and some of these bands have gone nationwide, and for us in Vermont, that's kind of a big deal, right? um But you have to either be so fucking good that they have to sign you, or you have money to put you in that situation. 90% of the new music right now is money, right? Real talent doesn't get there, because we're seeing it on the stages in these small venues, and they're fucking phenomenal. You guys ever watch The Voice?
Fucking crazy talent on there.
The people that sing on that show, as a musician and somebody who just like fucking thrives off of music that just hits you like that, right? That show is phenomenal, because I mean, they have some of the best singers on there, and when you actually hear them sing live, dude, you're like, how good are some of these singers, right? And again, it's how are these guys not having these huge contracts? You know what I mean? Some of these guys live, some of these people that they just can't sing. They're great in the studio, but what's that really come down to? Like, that comes down to your the guy producing you, the guy mastering the tracks, right? The guy who really knows how to get that tone and that effect and that perfect production on that voice or that instrument, right? Because live it's different. Very few people are good live. Some bands pull it off. Dude, Pink Floyd is like, you never hear a band sound so much even better than their album, right? And they get 30 people playing instruments on stage, right?
Mm.
And then you get these guys that have like 3 people. Yeah, they have 3 people in a band. They play 4 bars and they're garbage when they're live, right? But they're when the guy fucking puts the auto reverb on their voice, you know what I mean?
I always love seeing Linkin Park live when Chester was still alive. Like that. Chester Bennington sounded.
They're amazing.
If not better, live, it's the exact same as like the album cut. It's so crazy. He was such a talent. It's such a shame that they killed him. I mean,
and I agree with you on that. For sure, we can have that conversation with his group of friends that were also killed.
Chris Cornell, yeah.
Yes, for the same reasons. Fast and Furious, yeah. Paul Walker.
Yep.
Yeah, so, and that's a huge issue that's the one issue that everybody should be talking about in this world. That's been a fucked up issue. Yeah, that whole thing is again, dude, what happens in our world and what we're waking up to see is quite crazy, and due to the internet, due to the access, due to what's going on, I mean, there's so many conspiracy theories out there. There's so many things that you can choose to believe or not to believe, and there's so many things you can put your head in the sand on and go blah 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 blah. I'm not going to listen to that. Like, I mean, we have like Republican conservatives that they don't believe in second marriages, they don't believe in abortions, they don't believe in women's rights, and they're cheering on a candidate that just bashes and doesn't takes advantage of, and I mean, like, it's just how and why, like people's thought processes are just blow my mind, and a lot of it's just sit down and let's have a conversation, right? But it's again, it goes back to media, it goes back to what we're doing right now. You know what I mean? I
Communication.
We can have somebody that listens to this whole show that completely disagrees with both of us and thinks we're fucking crazy, right?
Yep.
But like I believe the world's round. You know what I mean? I believe the sky's blue. I believe the sun rises and sets in one
The,
looping direction.
the Earth is an octagon. Okay, so
Well, I mean, maybe science isn't perfect, but we do know dinosaurs. We do know how we got here. We have an understanding, right? Like that's why religion kills me, right? And
I
then
don't know. I mean, the jury's still out on how we got here. I don't fully believe in evolution because I feel like the purpose of evolution is to make something better. So
yeah,
why would we have the old shitty version of us running rampant around? And also, why is the in-between creatures not running around rampant as well? Because there's like 5 different generations between us and the
yeah,
Australopithecus or whatever the hell it's called of the original
yeah,
monkey.
yep.
And so it's like that part to me isn't convincing, but I'm also not of the belief that somebody was magically put here and the earth was just created like that. I think that nobody really fully knows. It's like the same thing
No.
in Egypt, like they can't explain how those people built pyramids, how slaves could possibly build pyramids where you literally can't fit like a joint paper in between the creases of where the stones touch. And
You need-
supposedly
you-
slaves dragged this for hundreds and thousands of miles and built it. Like, no fucking way. I think that there was already an advanced civilization before us and they died off and now we're here again and it's probably happened a bunch of freaking times, honestly.
well, I mean, if you talk about Rome, right? You're talking about the Egyptian temples, right? So, uh, a lot of theories are alien related. You know what I mean? But I just want to bring up this one thing. I'm glad you actually brought that up because this was just recent too. I was watching this thing on the Egyptian temples, right? And there's a lot of scribes about and you know bone structures that they've dug up that prove to this theory that there were like giants, right? So a lot of these hieroglyphics on the walls that they were putting on into their caves and into these things, you'll see that there's little people and you see that there's these big people, right?
Yep.
And these big people, those blocks are, to us this big, but they're 15 times bigger than us, and they're the ones with the sticks and they're carrying all these things, right? But then again, like and that theory raises tons of questions too. Like if there's such all these big people, why don't they just take over the little people? You know what I mean? Um, then you go back to like and then you go back to fables. Like there's so many written fables of Jack and the Beanstalks and giants and uh I'm trying to think of the one that not Jack and the Beanstalk, but shit. Anyways, things of giants, right? Like
Mhm.
and then they didn't, and that the little guys take him down and net him down and kill him off, and whether there's 6 or 7 of them or not, you know what I mean? But when you start looking at some of these old temples and the hieroglyphics that they're pulling out of these things, I mean, they're finding cannabis hieroglyphics of like literally what we were representing today, right? Um,
Melissa, the sun actually rises in the southeast and sets in the southwest. I'll have you know. And
well,
Amanda says, "Have you ever listened to Jehovah's when they knocked on your door?" I have not, and I probably never will. I'm sorry.
no, but
Oh,
could you argue that theory too, depending on what time of year it is and what our access or our equator is based at? Because don't we change that access a lot? That's why we have longer sunlight derivatives than we
a little
do.
bit, but if you really look at like the degrees in which it's rising and falling, it's really not complete east to west. I learned this when I was selling solar because
Yeah,
I had to learn how to basically walk up to somebody's house and be like, they're probably like an 85% rating for solar, and then
yeah,
go plug it into
depending
my system
on
and
yeah.
then put it up and they'd be like, oh, it's 87%. I'm like, oh, pretty fucking good, like it's all. And I would have a compass just like letting me know like my degrees and everything where I'm at because I know exactly where the sun is pretty
Yep.
much all year. Like during the summer it's wider, it's more looking like east to west, but instead of like a perfect east to west, it's just a little bit off. and then in the winter time it gets even shorter. So it's yeah, fun fact. He said, "Oh, now he's getting technical." Yes,
Back in the day. No, I
uh,
mean,
I
it
like
makes sense. And actually, as growers and people that do go after strains and go throughout the world, these are very important things. And what a lot of people don't realize when however the sun goes up and down, right? Is it ever really above you? No, you know what I mean. It's always like one thing I've noticed in my house, especially here and having gardens and stuff, is like my sun angle is not the greatest. I'm not gonna lie, I don't get much great sun.
far away from the equator,
Right.
so when you're on the equator, the sun can be right above you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the funny thing is like you said, it just follows that same path, and it's equator kind of driven, right? But for us, everybody, we always talk about the east and west, so we think it just literally does this, but it's literally like from way over there to way over there. You know what I mean? Because it never comes above us or goes the other direction in any sort of fashion. Like I've always noticed, it just you know how I noticed this? But the section of my roof that doesn't get the sunlight ever, I had to replace it. You know what I mean? So I was like, why the fuck does this rotted out and all my other? Oh yeah, the sun never ever touches over the side of the house, right? Ever. Um, and then it's not like I'm on top of a mountain either. You know what I mean? So it's like, and we're in Vermont, so it's like you think we would get no. You know what I mean? And you make a great point on that. But yeah, planting stuff like that, you have to take that in consideration, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, when looking at farms and scouting, that's the first thing I do. I'm like, wow, that tree line's blocking my south view all the way. That means that third of the field is going to be blocked. Because farmers like to take you out at high noon, so it's like the highest up that it could be, and you just got to kind of like look around the bullshit. Just be like,
Yeah.
all right, the trick to like get around it is just to have a compass.
Yeah.
You always know where you're at. Like it doesn't matter. I don't even look at the sun. I look at my compass.
Yeah.
I literally don't look up to see where the sun is. I just kind of go, whoop, okay, that's the trajectory. Cool, we're good.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it's true because you get, for me, you get blocked sunlight times, and it doesn't help you don't have a very productive grow on anything, right?
Yes.
So,
Holy shit, dude! I just looked at the timer. I keep saying this over my last few shows, and it's like a time warp being on these fucking live shows. It's been 2 hours. Holy shit! It's already 11:30 at night. My wife's probably like, "What is he doing in there?" Talk at Joe, man.
we're talking, right?
Forever.
I'm missing all these messages. I'm not even paying attention, which is probably pretty good. The Jehovah's, yeah, no, I try to stay away from the Jehovah's. Right now is the time to go knock on their door, though, isn't it? It's like get back time, and be like, hey, I want to talk to you about something.
Oh, that would be fun. I wish there was like a Jehovah directory. I think
Yeah, right.
that'd be fucking awesome.
Let's talk about flat Earth for a minute.
Yeah, like, are you sure?
I mean,
I don't know. There's some crazy shit. The hardest thing that I have a hard. The biggest thing that there we go. There's the words. The biggest thing that I have a hard time believing with the theories that are put in place by modern day science right now is just how perfect of a circle planets are. It bothers me, right? Because I understand we're hurling through space and everything, but to me, it would make sense that like we are like a giant rock. So some large portions of it are flat, some large portions of it are very rocky, other large portions of it are hilly. I think it's not a perfect circle, and I do think a lot of the pictures that they send back are like edited and photo edited and all that shit to look better.
Well, if you talk about like the man on the moon, I saw that picture today, and somebody said, "What's wrong with this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's no shadow for the everything has a shadow, but the flag, right?"
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I gave it away.
Yeah.
Literally, there's shadows on the flag, so it's like it begs to raise a question: like, was it photoshopped in or was it photoshopped out? You know what I mean? And that's the sad part about our world nowadays. It's like that could have been photoshopped out to raise against the theory that just to be, whatever, the Russians could have done it because, hey, they beat us there, but that didn't happen. We did it first. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the reason why I think that maybe we've been to the moon. Big people have stepped foot on the moon, maybe. But I do think the original moon landing was faked, 100%. Like, there's too much evidence against it that it's just like, that's fucking bullshit. Like, that's fucking bullshit. And I've seen so many videos of like spacecrafts launching, and then all of a sudden like these people have like a 200x zoom camera, and they just follow the spacecraft the whole time. They never lose it out of frame. It stays like the same size because they keep zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, and then the exhaust will turn off and it'll start flying like a plane and land. And I'm like, what? Why is that happening? So there's like some weird shit that I've always, I don't know. I doubt everybody. I doubt the flat Earth model because that's like too weird. I doubt, like yeah, we're just on a fucking spinning record, like that makes sense. Like that doesn't make sense to me. So like, I doubt a lot of what some of the modern day science and everything says, and I do think, I don't know. I don't know if humans have actually been outside of Earth's orbit. I don't know. I really don't.
I mean, it's crazy to think that that's, for some of the things that we can't figure out as a society, we can do that. I mean, it's like, it's kind of like, us going in a submarine and seeing how far down you can go. I mean, how many times did we try to send we sent one spacecraft up and it worked? Like, how many times did we test these theories, and how well did we know about atmospheres and windows and the the small gap of window you have to hit so you can actually land in Kennedy or wherever, you know what I mean? Like that, all the movies, yeah, who knows, dude. There's physics of understanding that would promote the idea of a round ball, right? Just because we have gravity, right? Gravity in layers would give you the ball, right? And the reasons why, then we go, well, what about asteroids? Like, have you ever seen a round baseball asteroid? No, they're all like broken rocks, right? But there's no gravity on that when it's there. So like as it breaks, it destroys. But if that was a round object at first that exploded into pieces, like you said, like, is there any electrocurrency in space? Is there any sort of magnetization? Why are these things moving hundreds of miles an hour past us and we're stuck in that one spot catching everything around us, and a moon that goes, you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
why Saturn have the ring? You know what I mean? It's interesting. I mean, I don't know. You grew up hoping that's what it is. I've never been to space.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to go to space. I hope it's real. I hope it's real. Like I hope that someday space travel, I'm able to see it for myself, because I think if I never go to space for myself, I will always have doubts. They need to like have trips to the moon where I'm able to like go to the moon and step foot on the moon and be like, hey, shit's lit, and like
I just want the moon to be made of cheese, man. As a food guy, just make it made of cheese. I'm stoked, right? It raises a question, and then if you're into those questions, then you're gonna be like, so when's the sun run out? I mean, they've had some great pictures of the suns, dude, and it's like it's the craziest thing, and there's a big black hole in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that picture yet, right? You can almost see right in through it. It's not round, you know what I mean? It's like you said, it's just like this weird blazing blob of something that moves, you know what I mean? So a lot of what we thought is being known to be wrong still, right? So then do you support Scientology then, right? Is the world flat? You know what I mean? How do we fly around the world though? You know what I mean?
The world is an onion ring.
You know what I mean? Yeah, right.
Melissa said she would love that, a trip to the moon. And I was just thinking, imagine doing a dab on the moon. That'd be cool.
Dude, it'd just be fun, right? At some point, we're going to be able to take, Tesla's going to get us up there. You know what I mean? If he's not doing it already.
Elon, sponsor a moon trip, please. Me and Joe want to go to the moon, and we'll live stream it the whole time while we puke and shit our brains out getting launched into space.
Right. Then you do question alien and alien technology, right? Let's go there for a minute, because if you believe in that, then everything comes into question. Like you said, do we come from apes? Like, do I honestly, for me personally, I believe in evolution. I call it realist, and it's like it's realist based on science, that's based on physics, that's based on what I know to be taught to me, right? Which is the problem. We all know it's taught to us. That's exactly. Racism or technologies or whatever you're good at. You were taught that, right? So
the winner gets to decide history, and that's always been a problem.
And sadly, that's true. It's whoever writes the books, bro. You know what I mean? Whoever sponsored that book to be written is literally like, let's talk about history books, dude. We talk about, the things we've done in the history as a society in America is fucking crazy. You know what I mean? We don't realize we locked up Asians. Dude, we had concentration camps for Asian people in California. Like, people don't even realize this.
Internment camps,
Kids in
yep.
cages right now, guys. Like, we're worried about all this other shit. We're worried about pedophiles, which we do need to worry about because that's been a huge problem, right? Satanic rituals, pedophiles, the child sex trade, the whole sex trade in general, right? It's years, right? 10 years ago, I remember talking about this stuff on air and in the media and literally being called crazy for it. Illuminati type shit, right? Oh, you're Illuminati. Yes, dude, that's the fuck you think the Klans are doing right now. What do you think this Pizzagate's all about? What do you think adrenochrome is? Like, is it? But now again, is that just something that's fed to us? Because where are we learning it from, right? Are you seeing it? Am I seeing it? No, we're learning it from a book or something, a substance in front of us, right? Whether you believe in QAnon or not, right? If you believe in QAnon or not, like this whole Trump thing is like, dude, it's fucking scary how like it lines up with the Q theory that's been around for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy how one side views him as like the savior, and then one side views him as like the devil, and it's like that's the problem is the polarization of it. There's no truth when the things are polarized. Like truth is in the bipartisanship. We're in the middle. Like they always say there's three sides to every story: your side, my side, and the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's exactly what it is. It's like what I do is I watch CNN, and then I watch Fox, and then I look on Facebook, and then I look at my friends' opinions, and then I formulate opinions for myself, and then keep searching for facts to disprove opinions that I have. And when I can't find anything to disprove it, which with all that fucking Hillary Clinton and Pizzagate, it looks really condemning and damning.
Dude,
and I
it's like
trial this past week, not for the pedophile shit, but for the Benghazi stuff.
Well, dude, have you opened up WikiLeaks yet? So WikiLeaks has done file dumps on all this shit. All of our emails are on WikiLeaks. All the emails. It's literally child trafficking. The Ghazi thing there, where it was just a murder setup. Dude,
I love how some people are like, why would they be using code words for food for that? I'm like, you motherfuckers have never dealt drugs, man. Like when I used to deal weed, it was like a foot long. A foot long was like a pound. Like it was like we had Subway keywords and shit.
Everything, right? Yeah, dude. I sold weed. I was a car guy, so it was always spare tires. Oh, I need a set of tires. I need a spare tire. I need a tire. Nobody would ever think about it because that's your industry, right? But these guys, that's how they did it. You know what I mean? And then the Wayfair thing. Like, I don't think people are woke enough yet because the problem is we as people, again, we're gonna stick our heads in the sand when we don't agree with something. We're gonna go la 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 la. You can't tell me nothing right now. I don't want to have a conversation, right?
Even if they don't disagree, it's uncomfortable for them, so they're like, I don't want to think about that.
Right, because it crosses a line usually it crosses the line of their integrity, right? Like, and they don't want to admit that they're wrong. A lot of people are so fucking stuck and that's the problem we have as people. Like, dude, I'm wrong a lot. Adam, we're all wrong a lot. We're talking about scientists who fucking sit here and spend their lives researching stuff that we think is right that go, I just proved myself wrong. You know what I mean? Like, it happens, and as people, that's the beauty of it. But like, we have to realize that that's what happens with people. We have to realize that you can grow, and we realize that you should grow. You should take all these instances in, and like you said, go knock it off. You know what I mean? Like, figure out if it's real, if it's not. The hardest part about media, and I'm sure you caught doing it. I've been caught doing it. I tend to try to go look at who the content's coming from. I tend to go look and read as much of the article as I can. Lately, I can't read as much as I want to because we're all busy, right? Like our lives and careers are expanding. So me as media and moving away from that news section a little bit more than anything, because right now, to me, there's a lot of propaganda news. It's a lot of bullshit news on both sides. It's pluses, it's minuses, right? The news I can't stand is, we may cure this. Cannabis may cure COVID. Dude, that's the one headline that's been killing me this whole time because that's the shit that we don't need to see. I agree. Like, I want to see that as a cannabis supporter and shit like that. But like, may, could, might. These are things that we don't need in this industry because now we get people. It's kind of like the fucking the hydroxychlone, whatever it was that
hydrochloroquine.
hydrochloroquine, right? You know what I mean? Oh yeah, hydrochloroquine. You do that, and everybody says, "Okay, oh, shit, hydrochloroquine." Like, you want to talk about the power of Twitter, right? There you go. There's a power of media right there. If without this media and these platforms, hundreds of thousands of people are going to go buy whatever the fuck
I
it
do
is.
think that. So I know a few people. Well, I've like people that have talked about it on podcasts and stuff. I've heard of a few people that got sick with COVID, like Brennan Schaub and Brian Callen. They
Mhm.
both got COVID from the same show.
Mhm.
Brian Callen did not get the hydrochloroquine. Brendan Schaub got hydrochloroquine the second day. After the second day, he had no more symptoms and tested negative like 5 days in. So, it's. I do think if they want, I do think it's very hard to always say this, but so I first of all I have to preface this with I know COVID is real, the disease is real, but
Yeah, I'm
do
not taking. It's real.
I do think that
Yeah.
there was a plan to crash the economy with the disease, and I do think that possibly we are at war with China, and they just don't want to let us know, and this is part of China's war tactics. And China, they have so
We
many,
literally are. Yeah.
and they just don't want to admit it, because that's scary to us.
We're in a
And
trade war. People forgot what we just said. Fuck you to these guys in trades, and then we're not going to bring any of their market in.
yeah,
Dude, what?
yeah,
We're trying to create a digital currency right now. Like, people don't understand this. Like, we see this no change, no money, no cash. Dude, go to fucking Walmart. Tell me this ain't weird. We can go to Walmart. We can't go to my local store.
right.
We have a change shortage. Get businesses back going, right? Where did fucking change go? It's not like we went to war and melted the change to make a weapon or something. Where to go? Like, it's still
We
there.
put
You
it
know what I
in
mean?
the vaccines.
Yeah, right. It's melted down into the vaccine. No, but like, literally, where to go? Like, come on. We have excesses of money. But like, again, if you look at what they're trying to do and what, if you pay attention to, like you said, it's so hard to pay attention. But from what I get, what's going on, to me, in my opinion, I guess you could say, because there's going to be lots of people that are going to disagree with me right now, and there's going to be lots of people that say Joe's fucking right, right? And it's just going to continue on this argument, right? But what I think is doing is China, dude. I worked for Chinese people years ago, right? China's going to do a takeover, right? But they're going to take us over in a different way. Like, a lot of people talk about this, dude. They've been doing this for years. If you pay attention to how much China owns in our country, on a business level, dude, and on a real estate level, it's obscene. I bet you they own more than 80% of our country right now, or they have some sort of financial to do in more than 80% of our countries. If you look at sports, dude, all of our fucking sports franchises are owned by a Chinese-based company. Food's all owned by our largest food producers in this country are owned by Chinese companies, right? Telecommunications. Where's your phone from? Where's half my clothing from, right?
China.
China, right? or some Asian country, right? Not all it's Thailand. It's it's slave labor. It's pennies on the dollar. It's I can get a microchip there for 50 cents. I would have to pay $150 in America for. Um, but with our own, like, again, we literally put ourselves in these situations as a society, because at some point we need unions, at some point we need labor, at some point we need to bring economy into America, which is vastly different than the Chinese economy, because they make $12 a day. We need to make $100 a day just to fucking pay our bills in America, right? They're making 12. And they have the same accesses and the same things as all of us, and most of their shit's more expensive, other than how does it work, right?
Right.
uh, and we have people struggling and making good money in this country, right? But they're going to take over, dude, right? They're taking it over. At some point in time, they're going to flip the switch. Do you think they forgot about Pearl Harbor? Do you think they forgot about what we mentioned earlier about us putting them in concentration camps? No, dude. One of the biggest things that I learned kind of rough was, working for a Chinese guy. I was like, hey, every guy's fancy Chinese, hey, Ming, hook me up with these girls that you know what I mean? Like, we're always going to restaurants. They all knew who he was. I'm like, come on, I'm single, Ming. She's cute, right? And he'd be like, dude, she'd leave and be like, no, she hates you. Like, they're literally are raised to hate you. They're playing the long game, right? So, like, this was years ago, dude, and I've seen nothing but evidence of it since, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. You go down to Quincy, that the whole city except for the water line is owned by Chinese people. It's look at these parts and towns where it's just all. And I'm not trying to be rude or mean or racist here, but they're taking over. You know what I mean? and good for them. If they can do it, then let them do it. Like that's how we have it set up here. Like we can't get mad at them for playing this game that we built. Again, so I say, like, a lot of these things that we're having issues with, the things that we built, we put in place, and they're affecting us now because we didn't fucking do it right to begin with. Instead of just changing it, and like you said with the police, right? Defund what? Like, I understand. Let's demilitarize the police. That's I totally agree. But then the problem is when we get into these situations that we see now, then we need militarized police, right? Because why should our own government, our soldiers fight against us? Because they're fighting for us, right? I see there's a big ethic issue there, right? Um, it gets fucked up at that point. But with cops, like you said, it's a change of the structures, guys. We've had a lot of these structures in for years, right? We see what works and what doesn't work, and right down to healthcare, right down to school systems, right down to how we run a lot of these different things. Like, we waste money. This is I'm not a big Trump fan, but he makes a lot of great points. You know what I mean? With when he ran on, did he accomplish a lot of it? I don't. Maybe. You know what I mean? The big thing I'll give him support for is the one thing we did talk about earlier was the human trafficking. That administration is the ones that are really behind putting that foot down, dude. That's a dangerous line. You know what I mean? Look at what happened at the Grammys this year. Dude, the fucking Grammys this year. I don't know if you've noticed this or ever watched it, but the host, dude, all he did was shit on the crowd. Talk about Epstein. Oh, he's your friend. Dude. Just Google this. This is stuff that people should check out, right? Because the guy was just was all just blatant attacks about Epstein, child trafficking, how fucked up the industry is. I don't know if you guys ever paid attention to Macaulay Culkin and some of the interviews that he's had even taken down and hidden, dude. If you can find some of the shit he's said,
Good luck.
like, they told him they try to tell you he was strung out on drugs, dude, but like then there's pictures and evidence to back it up. Like, the rabbit hole gets kind of crazy when you start fucking looking into it. But then again, you got to ask yourself, is this real or not? Like, is this something that like where does it gain traction? What's real? What's not? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, what is this made to make me think this way?
Right. And like I said, 10 years ago, I was hearing stories about, these child things, right? And what I was hearing about was Illuminati based, sacrifices, I guess you could say. And at that point, now that I know what adrenochrome is, and I know what some of these things that these guys fucking do with kids, dude, it's fucking scary. Like, that it lines right up with those beliefs. So it's like the more and more I've learned and listened and kept my eyes open, the more and more I've seen reinforcements to a lot of these theories over 10, 15, 20 years. And now 2020, literally, it's like that movie 2012, like, where everything bad could fucking happen and just all it happens. With fires, snow, tornadoes. Did anybody even, dude, we're so stuck on like the even the not to say that it's not president, but like, who talked about this hurricane that was one of the biggest ones ever? 2 hurricanes come together and wipe out half the country. Like what did I didn't even do? I saw everything about the hurricanes coming. There was another issue. So it's like we're just so topic driven. You know what I mean? What's hot today is not hot tomorrow. That's where the music gets bad. There's nothing that is lasting time anymore. You know what I mean? Very few artists do. You're right. Like, the talented ones, the other ones suck, dude. A lot of these guys, like you said, buy their ways in. It drives me nuts. About to do the
About to spark up too. Yeah, I've never had a show actually go this long, Melissa. I like it. I've never gotten into these kind of conversations with people on my show because usually people are afraid to.
Well, yeah. Well, dude, it's a risky conversation to have because people are going to disagree with us in many ways. But like, as long as we, dude, we have an opinion. People like us is the opinions that I would value more than anybody's, because we're the guys talking to everybody. We're the guys seeing all the sides. We're the guys, listening. My ex was a conspiracy theorist to the fullest. So like, talk about re-establishing like beliefs and what I thought I knew, with her going, dude, you need to read this. You need to read about this book that was written in 1850 that literally talks about Trump by the name being President 45 and being the end of Cash,
his son and everything. Like,
yeah, and being technically the end of the run of what we know as a presidency, which literally could happen. And you know what? I would welcome that. I believe this whole two-party system is bullshit, dude. This Republican and Democrat, and like we've seen them swing back and forth. They're both fucking corrupt as fuck. The Clintons are really, like we said, like I'm just gonna keep saying that word because, dude,
Evil.
the
Evil.
yes, just anything you find out about them, you're just like, and it goes and it goes and it goes, and again, check out WikiLeaks, man. I mean, all the files are dumped.
I think there was like 12 people that were involved with the Benghazi trial, and like 9 of them have just died. Like one of them was like died on a plane with her by suicide or something like that, like something crazy. It's so insane how sketchy the Clintons are. They're like the sketchiest human beings in the world, and that's why I was like, the last presidency, I'm looking like, holy shit, we have Hillary Clinton versus the billionaire guy who's the typical businessman you fired. Like he's
They're all drug backed. If you know about cocaine, right? The Clintons did. That's how far back it goes to being governor in Alabama, dude. If you know anything about it's Barry Silver, right? The guy who drove, was it Barry Silver? Yeah, Barry Silver, right? The guy who flew the plane that went down with the DEA's like 4 tons of coke in it. One of the fucking funniest stories ever. I don't know if you've seen that movie, dude, Made in America. It's a story about this guy, right? So basically, if you have these are the movies I love, like the government conspiracy theories, like cocaine, the whole Pablo Escobar story, like the whole cocaine movement in America, like how these trends started. You know what I mean? Like when you watch Blow, like, who hasn't watched that movie? Like, does that not blow your mind? Like these guys, here's a weed dealer that went to this and went to this, and all of a sudden it's like, you know what I mean? It blew up. But like, and then when you start realizing what really happened behind these guys, you're like, holy fuck, the networks. And if you know anything about Colombian history and soccer, dude, like, we wouldn't have world soccer without Pablo Escobar, right?
Eddie Murphy.
Charlie Brown.
I'm actually, is Eddie Murphy a part of this too? But it's funny because like I do feel like it's a common theme in all these movies about drugs that some kind of government official or government entity is always involved. It's just a funny coincidence,
If you know that story, it's literally it's a biography, right? So it's literally it's all about the DEA and everybody. And why I brought up is because it has references with Bill Clinton in there, right? So basically, this guy's a TWA pilot. I don't know if it's TWA, but like he's a pilot. He's a commercial jet pilot. And he's smuggling Cuban cigars. You know what I mean? And he gets picked up by a DEA agent who says, "Hey, I see that you're doing this. We kind of caught you, but we could use you because we have this little war going on in Nicaragua with what the fuck was I'll think about it in a minute, right? Their president, right? So we need you to go take pictures." So they set him up with a plane and started giving him money. And this was all, we're going to be working for the DEA. You got to be quiet. So we started running the planes and taking pictures. And then it was, hey, we need you to start flying documents down there. So they would, fly documents down there. More DEA, right? And like everybody in the drug world, like they're like, hey, well, if you're flying, then can you take this back with you, and we'll give you a little extra, you know what I mean? So he started running things of that nature, right? And then the Pablo Escobar picked up on him, and then they basically hijack him at a airport once and don't let him get gas, and you're coming with us, and bring his plane to like this field in the middle of nowhere, and they're like, if you get out of here, it's basically like you're either dead or you're gonna fly our 400 tons of or 400 kilos of cocaine in your plane out of here, and if you don't make it, there's 5 other planes in the trees over there. Like they don't care, you know what I mean? So he makes a deal with them, and he gets up, he gets a plane out, and he goes. So now, and then through the DEA, he's getting all the flight logs, so he's getting all the lanes of travel that he can get through without it, and dumping it into the water. We hear stories about Rick Naya, right? Let's talk about Rick Naya. Like the Gainesville Green was a drop of cannabis, like just like this was of coke, right? Guys flying overhead, they just drop it in the swamps. These guys went out and picked it out of the swamps. That's how we get weed. That's how we get weed and cocaine in this country for a long time, through planes, right? Because you can't land with it, right? You just open the chute and just start dropping, right? And hope nobody saw you, right? And you fly so low, radars don't pick you up because you're so low, right? So it's perfect. You just have to beat the cops to the stash, right? So yeah, so it was this whole story about this, right? But the guy, so the DEA ends up like setting him up, dude, and like gives him a whole fucking. So the DEA is now working with the guys against Pablo Escobar, which is a whole fucking step from the government. The freedom fighters that were going down there, it was just a big money thing, dude. Right? The Reagan era, and people don't realize this, but Oliver, what was it? Ollie there, Oliver. Was given the guns to one side to go after the coke guys to take out the coke industry, so we wouldn't have the coke industry in our country. That was Reagan's big thing, right? So when you watch these movies, everything you've learned and seen in every other aspect of your life just starts coming together, and you're like, it's kind of like going down that rabbit hole, like you said, when you wake up to certain things. Like all of a sudden, once you read that one thing or realize that something, you find the interconnect, right? Everything, boom, mind changes, right? And some people don't think that their attitude or their being a supporter or against something can change, right? I mean, look at cannabis activists. There's some people that were for cannabis that are against. Now there's some a lot of people that were fighting cannabis legalization now have parts in big companies, and they're profiting off these companies, right? So now obviously their opinion changes, right? Whether that's I think a lot of people in this industry, especially for medical, they have somebody near them that gets cured with a cannabis, somebody with epilepsy, somebody that had cancer, right? Somebody that they saw go through treatment, and you see real people who have that real change of heart, right? Where they go, most of it's our parents. Like we don't think that can happen, but our parents who hated it and called us stoners and gave us shit, grounded us, stole our weed, destroyed it, right? Let's be honest, right? And very few people had. I mean, some people had cool parents that you're allowed to smoke. My parents were those parents. I had friends' parents that didn't give a fuck. They're like, here, have some weed, So again, that's why I laugh about weed. It's been around so long. It's been around my whole life, and I've never seen anything. I've never seen addicts. I've never seen people rob each other over it. I've never seen anything really. I mean, maybe rob in pricing and shit like that. Yeah, fucking, it's a business. But I mean, it's a different mindset, and whether you're exiting or entering anything, I don't think you go anywhere from it. I think legitimately opioid use, this is perfect, man. Like if you get the right strains and you figure out the right thing that you need, like cannabis can be a very effective drug. When people talk about strains, nobody listens to strains, nobody cares. That's the problem with the carts. It's all a blend, right? But if you follow the strains and you really get what you need for a strain, certain symptoms that you are having, these strains are great for. Strains of the weeks, that's why strain knowledge is so crucial. You can back this up being a hemp farmer, right? Like certain strains are going to do certain things, they're going to produce certain ways. Certain strains grow well in certain areas, some don't. You know what I mean? Especially when you're talking about an outdoor thing. Strain knowledge is probably the most important thing when it comes to, and if you can get strain specific, then you're even doing better when it comes to medicine. Like I said, when you want to get high, you just get high.
Yeah, it's a shame that, especially in the recovery community, drug recovery community, that cannabis is so condemned. It's like it's put into the same category as heroin for them. Like you can't smoke weed. That's like you're gonna do heroin soon. Then it's like, no, that's not really how that works. And it's a whole different functionality and a whole different methodology of use, and it's a whole different fucking plant that's actually going to help you heal. So it's just one of those things. They've definitely just
on the reverse side, dude, I don't know what it's like in Mass, but what you said, if you're in a state, especially in Vermont, and you're in an opioid program because you're on opioids, dude, your usage of cannabis could get you kicked out of that program.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Which it's like, to me, that's where it really comes in very good. A lot of my opioid friends, especially, guys under heavy opioids, I mean, we've seen a lot of heroin users get off for a couple weeks, right? They always relapse. Every heroin user I've ever really talked to that was really honest with me, and not trying to be like, yeah, I'm going to quit. He's like, dude, 30 days. It's like that's a timetable for most of these guys to fall into a relapse, right? I don't know. You know what I mean? This is coming from people I've talked to, and more than one. You know what I mean? And friends of mine. I've buried a lot of friends. And I've talked to a lot of people, and especially being a cannabis activist, I've seen it help a lot of people. So I've heard a lot of stories, right? And they all seem to kind of like point towards, this 30-day cycle, and it happens every cycle, right? So 30, 60, 90, you know what I mean? And I think you're going to hear that from a lot of people in recovery, with alcohol, with anything, right? You're going to go through those triggers. You're going to have those times in your life, whether it's an emotional thing that triggers you, whether it's just your period, if a woman, you know what I mean? Like, people are weird, you know what I mean? Everybody's a little different. So, when you find those strains, that's what you need to focus on. But like, yeah, dude, it's medicine. I think the medical cannabis, and I hear a lot from people, especially in this world, where they're like, oh, it's not close enough, dude. I think it needs to be completely opposite. Like, to me, half the products that are in these dispensaries that they're calling for medicine, that's not medicine. Shower's not medicine. Carts are not medicine. Like, we just talked about medicine. It's cannabinoid.
I
Right?
do think if you do carts strain specific, terpene specific, you can make them medicine. But most
Depends on the process of the extraction, right?
yes, exactly.
We
Yes.
need certain compounds. I mean, we can take plants apart in isolate ways and put them back together again, so you can get benefits of other cannabinoids, CBG, CBNs. And the thing I like about strain specific is, you know, cancers are going to be treated different than pains, be treated different than and then you're going to have blends that work better. With cancers, we talk about one-to-ones like CBD. There's a lot of studies that show that CBD is not a standalone cure for cancer. It needs THC, right?
Yeah,
Like,
THC is more of the cancer killer.
yeah, and then so in theory, it makes perfect sense. Like THC, that's your cancer killer, right? The CBD is your cancer like healer. So when that's the shit that comes in after you just destroyed all those bad cells and fought that off, and they come in and start rebuilding and getting your proper body back in balance, right? Everybody talks about balance. There's many people I can bring up, Dr. Bob, even Rick Naya. You know what I mean? Look at these guys. They're older in age. They have more energy than us. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys are in great shape physically. They're right within what they're supposed to be, and their diets are a lot of cannabis and health, and you know what I mean. They have this understanding of good foods and things of that nature. Like, it doesn't have to be cannabis, you know what I mean. But like, if you're an herbalist, ginger, turmeric diets, you know what I mean. Herbs can work so many benefits for you. Honeys, you know what I mean. Natural foods. So processed foods, I think, our biggest problem is processed foods, autisms, the fucking metals that we're putting in. Why process things that work perfectly fine? It's just like cannabis, right? It's just like Epidiolex. Like, why are we processing it out to? I don't get it, right? And everybody has a choice to get a natural product that doesn't have a processed item in it, or do. But the problem is our market, because there's a market there, they know there's a market there, financially goes up.
Yeah, Amanda, we were talking about Epidiolex earlier, about how it's just CBD isolate with a bunch of nasty filler. And Melissa, I do think so. When I was making cards before I decided that they were too unsafe to really put out there, I had strain specific extracts that I know were safe because I lab tested them independently, and then really good terpenes from that are also strain specific cannabis terpenes. So you can literally guide what the effect is of a cartridge with that kind of knowledge, and using the correct amount of cutting. Like, most people are cutting this shit by 30-40%. Like, I'm cutting single digits, like yeah, this thing doesn't move. It's just viscous enough to burn, but the cartridges, like you said, it's like a cesspool for just the oil and bacteria and all the and metals, and it's just gross. It's just really gross. And I wish there was a safer method, and I hope someday somebody invents a safer method, because cartridges, I do think there is a future for cartridges if we can have a safe cartridge. The empty cartridge itself is the biggest problem that I'm seeing. And
a lot of waste.
What's that?
There's just a lot of waste. It's just
yeah. It's a huge amount of waste.
Packaging and the actual physical product is ridiculous. They'll figure out a way to make it better. I mean, it's like you said, it's the oil going into it's great. It's just For me, like I said, the temperatures people are running these things at, dude, I'm guilty of it too. Like I get my pen, I jack up to the highest thing because
So
the
you can get a
hit
big
hits
rip.
me the most, right? But like, what we don't understand is, dude, do it the low temp. Take 2 hits, and your 2 hits off that in 10 seconds will be better off your 2 hits that you had, in 1 second, because you're going to get so high and get to that point, and it's going to be quick, and it's going to be not as enjoyable as that body, as that, hey. But temperatures, man, like that's why they make adjustable pens. I think it's ridiculous. Again, oil, you can burn oil, dude. I don't know how many people have
Yeah,
electric rigs
there should literally just be a standard. I don't know why a company hasn't come out and made a standard battery for vape cartridges that stays one temperature because that's all you need. It should be a perfect thing that it
problem
could
is,
be.
we're going to talk about oils. Like people are doing it in MCT oils. People are doing it with glycols. People are doing it in different oils that have different burn temperatures.
Well, they should never be smoking glycols or MCTs. The fat molecules are way too big, and they're gonna get stuck, and that's gonna be create like fatty polyps in your lungs and popcorn lung, which is basically fatty polyps in your lung. It's not good. Only smoke shit that's good, and that's subjective. Well, not really though, because it's like lab testing will tell you if it's good, and I think. Exactly, Melissa. Too hot becomes a carcinogen. We were saying that earlier. I did a test where I smoked a whole cartridge through a tube and tested it in organic cotton, and it popped super hot for lead. And it was a cartridge that they passed. They showed me lab tests for pesticides and heavy metals before anything was in it. But it's the combination and the heating up that does it. And what happens is Joe said that there's people that are taking tests off of 3 or 4 hits of the cartridge, and then it's safe, but they need to do the whole thing, and that's what I did. I spent like over an hour just puffing this thing through a tube and getting it to collect into a cotton swab, so that way I could have the data, and the data proves my point that no cartridges are safe. And it sucks because I have people ask me daily when our cartridges are coming because I hyped them up heavy. I was like, oh, I found this new cartridge. It says that it's lab tested. It's going to be great. I'm going to do one more test on it. And then if that test passed, I'm going to release it to market, and we're there. And then it was like, boom, the test failed. And I'm looking at it like, what? Lead? I just smoked that whole thing. Fuck. Like it was like, oh wow.
Solders, I mean, so they have solders, they have different metals. When metal to metal contact it happens, a lot of weird things can go on. You know what I mean? Like when aluminum goes to steel, when it's not like metals, there's always going to be some sort of a reaction. And now, how long that reaction is going to be or what that reaction is really dependent on, again, what's in that metal. We were talking about the Chinese metals earlier. Just do some research on the metals that they're using for these things. Like I said, they're toxic going into the, just like when you process weed, if the shit that's going in is not great, the product coming out, it's not going to be great, right? Okay. You're going to have all this leaching in metals and things they're going to find in these products. Dr. Uma is a metal specialist. She talks about different compounds and the metals that happen when certain things happen, especially in the body. And a lot of that comes from vaccines. People don't want to talk about that at all, but like, dude, do some research on vaccines and actually look at the studies and look at what they've done behind the scenes and how they pushed it. It's very conspiracy, like it's not good. And because you were taught that it was good, you think it's good, and you don't want to open your eyes to what's wrong with it. I've seen and I've had in my life vaccine injured people. You know what I mean? Autism. You know what I mean? If you look at slopes and statistics and things like that, gluten intolerances, right? We're putting live DNA into our bodies from other animals. Live DNA, guys. Live. Not even like something that
what I think that vaccines, they don't cause autism, but if you're predisposed to possibly a higher risk of autism, it could putting other DNA into your body could mutate that to happen, essentially.
Yeah, and you said it right. When the minute you put it in your body, I mean, if you look at some of the dosages of and levels of things that we'll say there's, I want to say it's aluminum. I forget the compound, but it's aluminum something that's in there. It's like 400,000 times the dose an adult should get, and we're giving it to our kids. Usually stage 4, stage 3 shot of the vaccine is where a lot of immediate actions happen. Like I said, and for me, I dated a girl that had a vaccine injured kid after a shot that was immediate. And it was like, it's all there, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, at that point in time, it's when they made all the laws. You can't sue them. You can't sue them for vaccine injury, right? Like people
That
don't
should
realize.
let you know everything you need to know.
Yes, it's a corporate thing. You can't sue them, and like I said, most of these studies and these placebos that they're using, we wouldn't let the FDA wouldn't allow it for toothpaste. You know what I mean? Like it's just really kind of pathetic. And again, it's politics and money driven. That's no doubt. If you know anything about Gates and what's going on there, and how many people he's actually killed in Africa on
In
vaccine
India,
studies.
India and Africa, it's
Oh my
important.
god, dude! And we're a lot of our
I'm
industry.
pretty sure he's wanted for like crimes against humanity in Africa and
Yeah,
India.
there are certain countries that have issued him crimes against humanity charges. But it's Bill Gates. You know what I mean? Like he'll just buy
Right.
the whole city and burn it. You know what I mean? Like that's what the Clintons would do, right? And I hate talking politics because it's like, what I don't know what I am, dude. To be honest with you.
I
I mean?
think all we gotta do is talk about like sex, and we've talked about all the taboo subjects. We've talked about politics. We've talked about religion.
Dude,
We've talked about creationism. We've talked about
right? Just talk about sex. Dude, sex is
wow,
whatever you want it to be, guys.
each other one time. Oh my
Right.
goodness.
I mean,
What?
everybody has a personal belief about sex, right? We'll talk about sex real quick, right? Like, do you want to be gay or do whatever? I don't care. Like, I grew up in the chef industry. I'm used to it, right? Just don't get me included into that, and then I'm fine. You know what I mean? Unless, hey, I'm into that, and great, whatever. You know what I mean? But like for me personally, no. Like, I believe everybody, just do what makes you happy. Like, whatever fucking floats your boat. Again, we have a set amount of time on this rock.
Except if you're a pedophile.
Rock blows up or before we die, right? So it really depends on how you want to live your life. Like, do you want to believe? For me, I'm old fashioned when it comes to that part of my life, right? Like, everybody's like, you're a club guy, you're this, you're that, you're a promoter, you've been in music, you've been in this. Like, you must have had women all over you. No, you work. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize it's like those memes where you're like, oh, I think I'm doing this. My friends think I'm doing this. My parents think I'm doing this. And this is what we're really doing, right? I used to laugh all the time because people are like, you should be able to take girls home all the time. Well, yeah, I could like 2 hours before the end of my set or at the end of my set, but no, I gotta like shut down, clean up, pack up, leave. Half the time I'm doing sound and I'm just working, guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know how it is, right? Unless you're a band or an artist. I mean, even the bands half the time, dude, they're like, fuck, I gotta throw this shit in the rig. Like, they'll play and talk to you because that's what they need to do because they're promoting their band. You can come out to the truck and talk to them, but what are they doing the whole time they're talking? They're either moving gear in or out. Or they're like, we're not dealing with you, right? You want to come to my house, or if you're single, you take advantage of it, right? So there's people that take advantage of it, there's people that are not, right? So for me, like, I don't know, man. I've always been a business-minded person, and like that is something that, that's something that's means a lot to me. That's something that's like my one thing that because we're such social people. We're such I've been I'm a believer in women, dude. I guess you could say, and being nice to a woman. We all come from a woman, dude. Like we've all heard the "Mama" song by Tupac, right? You know what I mean? Empowerment, I think, fucks the game up. You know what I mean? Like, because again, it's like the Black Lives Matter things. Like everybody just takes advantage of it in certain ways, and it only proceeds in certain ways, depending on who's driving that section of it, right? What started off as a great movement is really driven by someone that might not be so great after all, right? You know what I mean? And it might be part of what's driving a lot of what we see going on, the George Soroses and shit like that. But again, what do we know? You know what I mean? All I try to do is connect the dots in my heads. You know what I mean? So, which is fucked up, right?
We just went so deep down like a rabbit hole of everything. That was insane.
Yeah, sexy, right? Yeah. So
Sex. Oh wait, we didn't talk about
throw it around, dude. I don't care. You know what I mean? Not my thing. You know what I mean?
down. Who the fuck cares?
I mean, again, you got one life to live on this rock, guys. You know what I mean? But just be cautious of the people's lives that you ruin within it, I guess. That's the only thing I'd ever have to say. So for somebody who believes in like a relationship and values and those kind of things, not that I'm like Jewish or have any sort of religion, but like, dude, when I have a woman, it's my woman. You know what I mean? When I have a girl, it's my girl. And when you have those people in your life, that's what it should be. A partnership, a support system, right? Like it shouldn't have to hurt. It shouldn't have to be painful, right? And if that's what's normal to you, then you need to realize this and end the cycles. You know what I mean? Because it does ruin other people's lives. I've dated women that have, and some people will say, "Oh, these women are crazy." No, dude, they've just had some fucked up lives, dude. That build these walls and build these issues, and unless you're either mentally capable of dealing with those issues or being able to have that conversation with them and on a level that that doesn't hurt them, you know what I mean? Because they've been so abused, right? We all have a friend that's been abused. We've seen suicides. We've seen, things happen as celebrities and friends. Celebrityship, it's weird because like you said, the bigger you get, the more who's your real friend, who's in your corner, the more separated you get, the more bigger you become. You know what I mean? And when you look at the Chris Farleys of the worlds, and we could go on about comedians who have taken their lives.
You don't even have to be at that level. Like I was like I always joke around and call myself a D- level celebrity. Like I was genuinely opening for all these artists without having any money. I was just selling shit tons of tickets to a bunch of people, all my friends that would come support, people that I knew would come see the artist, all that type of shit. I was really good at just marketing and doing that myself. So, I did a ton of shows. I got a ton of views, all that type of shit. Like got to hang out with Hobson, like when he was coming up type of thing. And I've opened up for quite a bit of artists, and just at that level, the amount of jealousy and hate and envy, and I'm looking around, I'm like, yo, are you making money? Because I'm not. I'm losing that money. Like, what are we angry about? Like, we still haven't gotten shit. Like, let's keep going.
We're still in that situation in the cannabis industry, right? Most of these guys are, and let's be honest, most of the guys who are literally fighting the front lines, most of these guys that are literally being the voice for the community are the ones that are making no money, right?
I haven't made any money yet.
Right, to be the voice, and you've seen it, and then it's not, and I'm not going to shit on these guys, right? But you get busy, right? You have a business. It happened to you, right? You took some time away from a show to work on the company, right? We all have to, when I was working with my company this summer, I had to take a lot of time away from our show. You know what I mean? It's just a balance of life, right? You can't do everything in the day. The day's only so long, right? But the problem is some of us have these ethics that say, this is where we belong. This is what we do well. This is the education that you can put out there. You know what I mean? Like you like being behind that mic. I like being behind this mic. I like talking. Melissa's been giving me shit about all night. But what's unique about this, and you said it earlier, these aren't situations that people like us get to have unless we meet people outside in the industry and have these conversations one-on-one. But these are things that we think about a lot, right? These are common issues that are being discussed in the media that, these are the things we're trying to open up those eyes, eliminate those gray areas. Like you said, go Google the cleanse, go Google this, go Google that. Like these are conversations that people would call us crazy for online. But like, maybe if you hear us talk about how like kind of common sense we are and like our thought process, maybe you're gonna be like, whoa, if these guys are thinking about it, you know what I mean? Like just be open-minded to everything. And that's through cannabis, especially. I think we see a lot of our demographics when you look at our older generation changing their minds, just opening their minds to the possibility of this may working. The only problem is we have an industry that 3/4 of it suck. They aren't doing it right. And we have a chance of losing those 3/4 of the industry of people that, we could have had if they were educated properly. I mean, how many times have we seen some really bad, I just saw an article the other day about a law firm that was a joke. You know what I mean? People, there's people in it for the money. There's people in it for the plant. You know what I mean? There's two greens in this game. So like you really have to choose what you want. And it's a hard line because who knows? You don't know what to do. The money is the hard part. You don't get paid for advocacy. You don't get paid to stand on those front steps of the state house unless you're probably on the other side and you're a lobbyist.
You don't get paid to be on the front lines of new industries and take all the beatings to like
No.
create a whole industry.
Right. I mean, how influential are I mean, I don't know. How influential are we? You know what I mean? Like every time I want to say fuck this, quit, I get 15 phone calls and people are like, "No, dude, you can't. Like, what would we do without you?" And it's like global, you know what I mean? And you're just like, "Really?" So it's tough. You know, and it feels good when you have people listening and educating and then they thank you for it, or group pages. But it also sucks that there's a lot of negativity in this industry and in this world right now, which again, dude, we can base on so many things: COVID-19, shitty economics, nobody's working, you know what I mean? Like, these small craft growers are waiting for licenses.
Mhm.
Their markets are drying up because it's just a black market, and what they were hustling before COVID, it's not what it is now because nobody has money, right? um there's a lot of cycles that are happening right now. So, hopefully people just stay, fucking stay positive. Cannabis is a strong game. We need to stop fucking arguing with everybody and backstabbing everybody because it's a big market, man. Like fucking A, it's a huge market. And if we're just gonna keep taking each other stabs at each other, we're literally reinforcing the stigma, aren't we?
Mhm.
I mean, think about it. Like, it's just, it's kind of like, we were joking about the music industry stigmas and, certain industry stigmas. And it's all caused by their own fault and their own greeds, right? And greeds, whether it's quality versus quantity, or, what I mean, money versus um, integrity, I guess is probably the best thing there. It's not easy to walk away from money, man. I've done it a few times, and you wake up the next day, you're like, "Fuck, did I do the right thing?" But 3 weeks later, you definitely feel great about it because it's like you didn't sell yourself to the devil. You didn't have to change your whole mental mindset or be a fake after so many years of preaching something, unless you have a valid explanation of why your mind changed. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like
Exactly.
my niece got cancer. I saw CBD work. You know what I mean? Like that's that to me. I've heard so many of those stories from police officers, from people that shun cannabis. But being in this industry for as long as I have, dude, I was selling weed to fucking teachers and policemen and doctors and lawyers when I was in high school. You know what I mean? Like the industry was always there. It was just, I used to laugh all the time. My slogan growing up was, "Everybody smokes weed. It's just a matter who admits it," right? You know what I mean? Principles, dude, vice principles, right? Like, um, but their circles are small. You know what I mean? So, back then it's like like you said, they get home, they run to the basement where nobody's gonna find them. They go to the fucking bathroom with the fan blowing outside. How many tricks and things did we learn on how to hide smoke? Blow through a tube with a lot, a laundry, a clothes dryer, right? Um, yeah, man,
He
it's just
said a closed drawer. Yeah, there's so many different tricks that we had to come up with just because of the negative stigma and bullshit that was put on cannabis. And I feel like I've been talking about it a lot more on the show lately. And
yeah,
people like us are hopefully lighting the torch for change to be able to set our industry and community in a better direction. It's
yeah.
the big corporations are trying to come in here and take us over, and we're not allowing that to happen. That's just never
No,
gonna
I mean
happen.
it can't, but it will. You know what I mean? Sadly, they're in every industry, man. But if we create an industry that is well put together and protected, then everybody can play in the industry, man. You know what I mean? Like, for me, dispensary games should be buying from co-ops of the best weed around that is tested and encourages people to grow the best weed around. You know what I mean? Like it's all, like I said, it goes around in circles and it all goes hand in hand, right? Seed to sale doesn't do anything. It just creates, you're creating an issue right right then and there. You know what I mean? Seed to sale with you can only get the plant counts of your, you can only get the plant counts of your patients, right? So you have to have so many patients to grow so many plants, and you can't go one over. So if you have an issue, which I don't care how good you are, man, like you're gonna
We
have an
have
issue in a
issues.
grow, right? You know what I mean? You could be the best fucking grower in the world. You're gonna have issues in some of your grows, right? Whether it's mold, whether it's a bug issue, We all struggle with those issues, right? Whether it's a natural temperature issue or thing outside, right? Like we're seeing again, fires, fucking floods, infestations, snow, which some people laugh. I think it's great. Plants love it, dude. Those plants in Colorado right now are going, what the fuck is this? They're gonna freak out for a few days, but the minute that snow goes away, they're gonna just they're gonna reap the benefits, right?
And snow like that happened in Colorado, it'll be melted that
Quick,
day,
yeah.
and then because the next day it was 80 degrees, so they just got a quick snow, quick little stress, and then get more cannabinoids to respond to that.
People don't realize like that drop in temp. I mean, I've known people that try to replicate that in grow rooms just to get
Right.
certain nutrients to certain places of the plant. It's like dropping your lights. It's like dropping your nutrients at the end of the thing. People need. I mean, I do agree. People need nutrients unless you have a perfectly balanced, live soil grow with worms and everything's working in conjunction and peat moss and clovers and a coverage on, and like I said, a real live soil that's been growing for a year, just to get the temperatures down in it. That's the one thing that people always fuck up, I think, with the live soil or going into a compost thing is the soil runs hot. You know what I mean? You just can't make it and run it because your soil runs hot. You gotta like leave it, flip it, play with it for a year, or expect that you're gonna have hot soil that's going to potentially create you issues. But the biggest thing is
Exactly.
pH, man. People chase around issues with nutrients, and they spend all this money on nutrients, and no one is in this industry is going to tell you don't do that, because guess who's making money? The guys that are selling the nutrients and all this shit who are running the industry, who aren't they were kind of like the black sheep of the industry, speaking real, but like those guys aren't going to tell you that you don't need CalMag. Here, buy a pH meter, because they're making $10, $20 off you every month on CalMag, and then they know. And why do you think these walls in some of these stores are covered in nutrients, dude? You know what I mean? You don't really need it.
Oh
There's
yeah,
some areas, yes, you're going to need certain
high
nutrients.
profit margins.
But then how many times have you seen plants have nutrient burns? How many times do you see people that are bouncing because they read the bottle and it says, hey, put 3 tablespoons per gallon? They go, well, if I can do 3, let me do 6, right? Where in reality, they should probably put 1.
Yes.
And you don't need to feed them every feeding. You know what I mean? Like, and you build cycles in your plants, so you don't want to be too repetitious, but you have so many repetitious little things going on. Light cycles, water cycles, things of that nature. I change it up all the time on my plants just to fucking fuck with them.
I was
And
having a stoner moment. I couldn't find my lighter. It was in my lap like always.
it's just sitting there.
But holy shit. All right, we just hit 3 hours. I am fucking exhausted, man. We are definitely going to have to do this again because I feel like we could literally have like a 6-hour session and keep going. And it's been fucking awesome. We've been meaning to do this for I feel like 2 years now. So I'm happy that we finally got on to do our media thing together and spread a good message about cannabis. At the end of my show, I like to let people plug away at all their social medias and projects they're working on and where people could find you.
Right now, we have so many little projects, but nothing's really launched. We're working with Rick on a bunch of stuff, websites, ricknaya.live, ricknaya.cool, that you guys will see coming out. As Rick is doing his own shows and becoming more of an influencer and bringing out lines and products and nutrients and lighting, things of that nature. He'll have his stuff going on. In the Weeds, Prohibition Talk Radio, In the Weeds, Vermont. There's a couple of In the Weeds out there. We're the Prohibition Talk Radio guys. We do our shows every Wednesday at 4:20, 4:20 to 6:20 p.m. You can find it on our In the Weeds Facebook page. We just do live there. We just switched over to the YouTube platform this week, and maybe we'll stay over there.
Make some money, bro. Just don't play any music because they'll mute you or they'll flag your video.
Well, we are doing it so keep an eye out, guys. I'll plug this real quick. We're putting together the 24/7 podcast network. So if you're a content provider, you're in the cannabis industry, Adam, you as well. We are basically building a online network that is basically radio based. I've been in the radio industry for 13 years. We're bringing over a lot of the same way you'd run a radio station, but the ways we can plug people in, give you guys. It's basically based on podcast stuff. So, but the idea is to be direct marketing. If you look at, whoa, my dogs are going nuts in here. If you look at um, streaming services and subscriptions and stuff like that, like when you start playing in certain realms and games, you'll realize that the direct marketing and things like that nature are really huge over there versus what you'd spend on radio or media magazines, things of that nature. So we're trying to tie in with billboards, magazines, multitude of outlets of media content and creation. So when you get involved into this thing that we got going on, to hit 100 million people, it would be easy, right? But the biggest thing, being in media forever, we don't make money. We already talked about that, right? So this is a platform where the breakdowns will actually make providers money without having to sign a $10 million deal with Spotify like Joe Rogan did, right?
100 million.
Right. No, but the biggest problem we have is, to do what we do and to do what we need to do correctly, and the research that goes into it, people realize, to pull off a proper radio show is 60 to 80 hours a week. And, you're doing content, you're doing social media, especially if you're doing it as a solo or just a dual project. There's a lot, just booking guests in the cannabis industry is not the easiest thing to do, man. They're all stoners. They
Right.
can't decide what they're gonna fucking eat in 10 minutes to get them to choose a date in some of these cases. You know what I mean? That's the funniest part of our industry, because like some people are like, they jump right on it because they're like, yeah, this is great, this is perfect. We're business minded. We're gonna jump on it. The other guys are like, well, I might be harvesting. Then I have to, I don't know. Let me smoke some more and I'll get back to you. You don't hear from them for like 3 months, and then you hit them up like, oh hey, yeah, we've just been smoking weed and playing with plants, like. But that's what
People are just so fucking busy in this industry. That's like one of the hardest things to understand. Is just like that's why the conventions are so awesome to me, because like like Kevin and Maya, Joliker, like I never get to see them, but at conventions I see them every convention. Like I know that I'm gonna get to see the people that I haven't seen all year, because I don't even see my family. So I don't really hang out with friends. I don't outside of the work I do with cannabis. It's like I don't really do fun. Like this is my fun. This is my
and that's what makes you good at what you do and a good activist, right? Like if it wasn't fun, why would we do it? I think there's people with those passions, and those are evident. Like literally, it's like us. You know what I mean? The people, like we said, we've talked about a bunch of other show people that have given up a lot of things to do what we do because there's a passion there. But we, like you said, we can't complain about it. You know what I mean? Like we're like, fuck, I gotta get a job now. Shit, I love doing this. What am I gonna go do? Like, I'm good at a lot of things, but I don't want to do anything but this, right? But you make it funny because it's like, dude, as much as you're out there, most of these people, we're really personal people. You know what I mean? So it's hard to get in our circles because I think, especially as musicians in the cannabis industries. They kind of line up, but like if you've never been fucked so hard and put away wet so hard as you would ever get lessons in this industry, right? So a lot of people think we're rough and we're a little rough around the edges, we're a little blunt, but like, no, dude, we've been through the industry. This is just how we, like from a restaurant, you just you talk your shit, you do your show, you get paid, you go home, and then like you still call the guy or go get a beer with him after the show. You know what I mean? Like. The restaurant mentality is like, dude, I could fucking light you up on the line, but at the end of the night, we're gonna get a beer because we're still friends. You're just a dick for that moment. You know what I mean? You deserve the bitch slap, right? That's kind of like the mentality. That's like the we talk about it's like the Boston mentality, right? You know what I mean? You get out of line, people will knock you back in the line, but that doesn't mean that we don't love you and you're not part of the family and you don't come home for dinner. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just the industries are fucking weird, and when people start dealing with people that are from our industry, that when we deal with business people, dude, it's just a totally different mentality because they see numbers differently. We're like, dude, we don't ever believe in numbers because it's like, dude, if this guy shows up and this guy plays a full set and the fucking everything works okay, and we don't have a failure and we don't get arrested and the building doesn't get shut down, a fire alarm doesn't go off, like. All these things that could go wrong, and then to try to get paid and money, and like people don't realize, like the music industry is not a glamorous industry by any means. It's hard work, and people don't make a lot of money doing it.
I lost a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, right. Everybody wants to pay an artist, band $200, so everybody makes $50 a gig to go bring their their
I
$4,000
wish. In
instrument.
hip hop, man, it's like I would sell 100 tickets and not make $1. And I'm selling like $30 tickets. I'm making this fool like $3,000 to pay a $50,000 artist, and he has 10 artists opening. Like it's fucking crazy the scams that go on in the music industry. But
That's common, dude, to get people in the door because that's it's a marketing ploy. You know what I mean? They want to get you on a stage to be seen, hoping that you're going to be seen in front of those same people that you're bringing in and more. But if it's your market anyways, it should be paying you. I mean, that's the problem with it. Like, I believe everybody needs to get paid in all these, whether you're doing graphic design, whether you're doing the radio. Like, this is one of the hardest industries to do because it's so time consuming. Again,
exactly.
you have to research, and the media and everything we say on this show is going to be talked about by whoever watched it, right? Whatever viewpoint we had. That's why I try to stay away from politics. And it's like, literally, I don't pay attention to too much of it, as much as I need to hear to be upset about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's important to kind of like stay out of it, I think. But
well, A, it divides too many lines, and B, it's like one of those things. It's like, even if you look at our last two elections, when you talk about voting, like, how can I sit here and tell somebody to go vote? It's going to make a difference when our last 2 or 3 fucking presidents got in by not our popular vote. You know what I mean? The electoral college, right? So, like, who the fuck's the electoral college? You know what I mean? Where'd they come from? Like, how do they get the Bushes and all the Trumps into the office, right? And like, the biggest thing is I hate is when everybody blames other presidencies. Like, dude, nobody's perfect. The president's a puppet. Let's be honest. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Trump's probably the only one that's gone in there and really shaken up the house and just said, fuck every other bill. I'm going to roll everything back and we're going to take a different approach to it, which is great. But there's so many personal issues with that and things that have been done. You're just like, what the fuck's going on? You know what I mean? There's too much financial business incentives. Like, business is fucking crooked. Politics is crooked. So how do you think business is going to fix politics? Politics ain't going to fix business. Like, they're so in bed with each other that tax breaks, all these different systematic things. Dude, imagine how much taxes would have the country gotten out of $1 trillion in a profit that Jeff Bezos got. Like, even if they took 30% of that, dude, $30 million or $30 billion, that wouldn't help our economy. That wouldn't help our systems.
300, man, 300 billion. That's 30%.
Yeah, even worse, right? So, like, could we cure the homeless issue with 300 billion? Could we cure cancer with 300 billion? Like, come on.
I'm dead. Melissa's like, you motherfucker said you were saying bye 10 minutes ago. All right. We are obviously bad at saying bye, so I will do my sign off and we'll get out of here on this. But it's been a pleasure, and we are gonna definitely have to do this again. But as usual, wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you. Good vibes. Peace out.
Love it. Thank you, guys.
Melissa.